episode 100 of the Joomla Beat podcast, and on this episode I have a whole bunch of lightning guests speaking about their experiences, the future of Joomla, and so much more. Woo!
Oh, I feel like there should be some fireworks in the background.
I can put in sound effects.
Okay.
Latest Joomla news, design tips, marketing ideas, and interviews with experts in the industry.
Beginner or professional, this podcast is for Joomla enthusiasts.
Welcome to the Joomla Beat podcast with your host, Peter Buey.
Hi, I'm Dawn Russell, and I'm from Brattleboro, Vermont. You're listening to the Joomla Beat podcast.
Hi, I'm Mark Lee. I'm from Stack Ideas, and you're listening to the Joomla Beat podcast.
Hi, this is Matt Baylor from the Joomla Extensions Directory team, and you're listening to the Joomla Beat podcast.
My name is Matt Thomas, also known as Between Brains, and you're listening to the Joomla Beat podcast.
Hi, I'm Michael Babker, and you're listening to the Joomla Beat podcast.
Hello, I'm Nicholas Giannisopoulos from Akiba Backup, and you're listening to Sorry, screwed it. Again. Joomla Beat podcast.
Hi, I'm Paul Orwigs, and you're listening to the Joomla Beat podcast.
Hello, this is Peter Martin from the Netherlands, and you are listening to the Joomla Beat podcast.
Hi, I'm Robbie Adair with Media 18 from Houston, Texas, and you're listening to the Joomla Beat podcast.
Hi, my name is Alice Grave. I'm co-lead editor of the Joomla Community Magazine, and welcome to Joomla Beat podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the 100th episode of the Joomla Beat podcast, the podcast all about designing, developing, managing, and marketing your Joomla website. I'm your host, Peter Buey, and joining me again is the lovely Martina Kotzian. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks.
You were away for a while.
Yeah, I was. Now I'm back.
Yay,
back
hooray.
for the 100th episode. Congratulations on 100 episodes. That's pretty awesome.
I know. We've done a pretty cool job, haven't we?
I feel like we should have bought some cupcakes or something to celebrate.
We have some Stroop waffles.
Oh, okay.
I'll get the Stroop waffles later in the show and we can snack on them.
Sounds good.
Well, I have to thank the Joomla community to actually introduce me into Stroop waffles. Stroop waffles. Well, that's where I first had them. Like, I got a whole bunch of them from the J and Beyond conference.
Was that in Germany?
Yeah, Königstein. Yes, I got a whole bunch of them. I was like, what is this thing? Bit into it. Like, I understand.
You've been obsessed ever since.
I have. And Nicolene has been a very good friend. Tell everyone what she brought back for me last time she came back from the Netherlands.
Every time she goes to the Netherlands, she always brings you back authentic Stroop waffles. Not like the ones here.
Yes.
That have been sitting around for months and months. These are the fresh and...
the really good stuff.
Yeah.
The high quality stuff. And not just one or two packets. She brought me back a massive stack last time. That was awesome.
You've stolen my friend.
Yes. No, well, stolen all of her Stroop waffles. That's for sure. Her secret stash. She came around the other weekend and she had more. She was holding out all that time.
I think she's a Stroop waffle dealer.
Yeah.
I've seen her giving them out in the hood.
Anyway, enough about Stroop waffles and more about the 100th episode. So this podcast episode, I have a whole bunch of interviews that I did over the last week. 8 different interviews from different people within the community. Everyone from people in the leadership, people that are third-party extension providers, third-party theme providers, and also Joomla users, just people that are building sites or just learnt how to build Joomla sites, which is really cool.
You've gone all out for this episode.
Yes, and I try to get as many people across the globe as possible. So I got some people from the UK, a couple of people from the US, a couple of people from Asia as well. So
that's good variety.
Yeah. Well, Joomla's global, and I try to get everyone everyone I could involved. So I think I covered enough. We also have some hello and messages from the community as well, so I might just play a couple of those.
Some pretty cool people left some voice messages.
Yeah, and I might just play one of those right now.
I'd like to congratulate Joomla Beat on their 100th episode. Well done and keep them coming. Hello. A huge congratulations to Joomla Beat's 100th episode. We look forward to lots more great episodes.
Yeah, that's from Shayla's daughters. I think that's probably our youngest podcast fans.
That is so cute. Actually, the first little girl sounded a lot like Hermione from Harry Potter.
Well, maybe.
The next Hermione.
I'm trying to pick the voice. Yeah, you're probably right there. It sounds very much like her. She could probably do audiobook readings.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But this is their...
You can say you discovered her on the Joomla Beat podcast.
Congratulations, Joomla Beat, on your 100th episode. Great achievement, and here's to the next 100 episodes.
Yeah, so thank you, Shayla and her kids, for sending in some awesome messages and support for the podcast episode, and they've cemented themselves into the 100th episode. How cool was that? Anyway, shall we get into our first interview?
Sure.
All right, so first up we have Brian Tiemann. Brian Tiemann appeared in episode 8, I believe it was, one of the very first podcast episodes where the audio was actually pretty crap.
Was it?
It was pretty poor. It was pretty poor back then. I had the levels wrong. I had like weird equipment that I had to actually plug into the laptop.
Oh, you're just so much more professional now. Yeah.
Well, the people that have seen my recording gig, the little rig and the microphones and everything, it's pretty cool. It's an audiophile geek's delight. But anyway, Brian, welcome to the show.
How did you discover Joomla?
A little bit different for you.
Back when I was still slim and didn't have any grey hair, probably in about early 2012, a friend had asked me to build a website for him, which was something I'd never done before. And because I was running an open source ISP, I was looking for open source solutions. And everything that existed was stuff like PHP Nuke, if you remember that.
You said 2012.
2002. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. So, do you want me to redo that? Or?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Do you want to ask the question again, or just me speak?
I'll do it again.
Okay.
So, how did you discover Joomla?
So, back in about 2002, when I was still slim and didn't have any grey hair, a friend asked me to build a website for him, which was something I'd never really done. But I run an open source internet service provider, so I looked at open source solutions, and all I could find was stuff like PHP Nuke and Post Nuke. I don't know if you remember those, but they were fundamentally, create an article and have comments, and the last thing they wanted was to have comments on their website. So I kept looking and couldn't really find anything, and then I suddenly stumbled across this thing called Mambo, and really bizarrely, I recognised the name of the person who'd written the release on Fresh Meats, the release announcement, as being one of my customers. Yeah, as being one of my customers at the internet service provider. So I logged into his account on the ISP and found this thing and looked what he was doing with it. Thought, oh, this looks cool. And checked it out, tried it out. Then started speaking to him on a regular basis about, how I've got this idea for this, I've got this idea for this. And he started writing the code for that. And then Andrew Eddy came along and he started contributing and writing code for it. And the rest, as we say, is history now.
So around that time as well, though, the WordPress was popping up and Drupal not too long after. Did you play around with any of those other platforms before cementing yourself with Joomla?
I mean, the honest answer is no.
You didn't play with anything else?
No. In fact, I can honestly tell you I have installed WordPress once so that I could record the videos for a Kiba backup for WordPress. So I got as far as how do I install WordPress and how do I install an extension. But that's it.
All right, okay.
How to create a menu or a post type or anything. As for Drupal, I think I looked over someone's shoulder once when they unzipped Drupal.
That's it.
But that's it. So the honest answer to that is no, I've never looked at anything else. I found what I liked. It worked for me. And importantly, I think the stuff that didn't work for me, I was able to contribute ideas, suggestions, even code to change that. and it was being accepted. So, it seemed it's been the perfect fit.
So you could actually get the solution that you had, or the solution that you wanted.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, I mean, if I was to use something else, if I was to use something else now, I'd be absolute beginner time. All those years of experience of what's the best extension to use for this? What's the best extension to use for this? I mean, I wouldn't know where to even start in with another CMS.
Yeah, very true. You'd have to become a jack of all trades on all different CMSs to know so much.
Yeah, and as the saying goes, jack of all trades, master of none. I'd rather be a master of one.
Very true. So is there anything cool that you're working on at the moment using Joomla or services that you're providing, or anything that you're doing in particular with it?
Yes, so I'm just in the process of completing a project for Cambridge University Press, which is a custom component which I've created, which I was quite pleased about. It's the first time I've really done anything like that.
Nice.
Which it is a resource for anybody teaching English grammar, and it aims to be to contain the complete English grammar in one place. And it is designed for academics. It's not for you and me to use. But you can put in every type of speech, every different reading levels, different understanding levels, and get the rule, get the examples and stuff like that. And it's very cool. So I've just tweaking the final stages of that. And then that'll go live hopefully by the end of this week. So that's quite cool, because I don't usually get involved in building websites. The project has to interest me, and this one did. So it's been quite cool.
That does sound pretty cool and pretty complex too. And you said you coded it?
So there's two sides to it. There's the back-end data entry side, which I started that using writing as a component using Component Creator.
Yep.
Which made my life massively easy to get started. I mean, it took me about 80% of the way there.
Oh wow!
Still had to at least, but I'm not using that for the front end. The front end is using actually a commercial extension, which most people have probably never heard of, called Alter Reports, which is incredibly complicated to understand and to learn, but the support is awesome, so the guy's really helpful. But it's incredibly powerful and lets you have to build queries with filters and conditionals and all sorts of other stuff, and output your data however you want.
I see.
So basically what happens is you as a user, when you visit the site, you can do a regular search, or you can do search plus filters. And then you can even do search plus filter or filter. So you can do and filters and or filters and stuff. And then the really cool bit is at the end, when you've got your filtered result, you can click on export to a spreadsheet of just your filtered results.
That is actually really cool.
It's a really cool extension once you've worked out how to use it.
What's it called again?
Alter Reports, ALTER.
Excellent. All right.
And it's from alterbrain.com.
I've heard of Alter Brains. I haven't heard of Alter Reports.
Yeah. Really, I think they had another extension called Mighty Sites or something like
Mighty
that.
Sites.
Yeah. So yeah, it's incredibly complicated. You can customize every level of it. Personally, I probably would have not allowed you to customize a lot of it and just done it as a template override, which is what I've actually done. I've ignored a lot of the customization options within the component and done it as my own overrides, which made more sense to me.
Very interesting.
But yeah, so it's a combination of, Component Creator for the back end, Alter Reports for the front end, plus my own views and some jQuery and various other bits and pieces.
Would love to get the link to that to put into the show notes as well, if people can see it, if it's publicly available.
I think it's going to be publicly available. I'm not 100%. There's two sides to it. One side isn't and one side is. So, because they've also done the entire vocabulary of the British language as well.
Whoa. Okay. That's a lot of work there.
So the vocabulary one I haven't done. Hopefully that will be converted to Joomla, because that one is really cool.
All right.
So hopefully they'll be pleased with the grammar one, and they'll convert the vocabulary one from this proprietary Java app into Joomla.
All right, Java, gotta love that. So besides all the work that you're doing with Joomla, how are you contributing back to the community, and how are you giving back to Joomla in general?
Right. So I think since January of this year, I've been working with a group of other people to update and make consistent and modern and accurate all the core English language files of Joomla. You can imagine all those strings have been created over a very long period of time. And
10 years.
There was no... Yeah, some of them, definitely some of them 10 years. And a lot of them, there was very little consistency between them. So we've created a full style guide to use, which is published on developer.joomla.org. So hopefully extension developers can use that style guide as well.
I see.
To help them. An example would be use capital case for buttons, use sentence case for tooltips.
Gotcha.
As well as some common words to watch out for. That are common misspellings. But the other thing we discovered is things like, is it a folder or is it a directory? I personally think it's a directory. The rest of the working group said folder. So we went with folder, but before we changed things, we looked. There were 74 instances of installation folder and 73 instances of installation directory, which just, it doesn't help us to be inconsistent. No. So the whole idea of the project was to make things consistent, and also not just for the English language, but it makes it easier for the translators to localize it into their own language if we're consistent.
Yeah, so they're not translating to local into directory or folder in their localized language.
Yeah, they have been.
Oh, they have been. Lovely. Okay.
Translating the word installation, which of course is the name of the physical folder.
Ah, I see.
Which is a bit unfortunate, but it's all about making it consistent so that there's and then also I think the most visible change that people will see is in Joomla 3. What's our current release? 3.4.4.
Yes.
We removed the word manager from the admin interface.
I did notice that. So everything was extension manager, plugin manager.
Yeah, so it's now extensions, it's now content articles, content categories, content featured articles, not content articles manager, category manager, etc.
Yeah.
Which, that's the most visible change that's been made. Interestingly, having done it in English, we discovered that in German, they'd made that choice quite some time ago. And in Dutch, they'd also made the choice as well.
How about that?
So they were. So when it was being localized, they were updating the user interface in some ways, but it wasn't going back upstream. So when I proposed it in English, although a lot of the English speakers were up in arms about change, the German and the Dutch were like, "Well, we've had it in German and Dutch for ages, and it works great." So so that's the most visible change, and pretty much we've finished that task. There's one issue left on the table, but unfortunately, I think it's one that can't easily be resolved. So we'll have to pass on that one until Joomla 4.
Cool. Awesome work, Brian, and awesome work to the team as well.
Yeah.
So last but not least, where do you see the future of the project? Where do you see Joomla in the next 5 to 10 years?
I mean, my flippant answer is, if you'd have asked me 10 years ago where I would have seen it, I would have said, well, it would be lucky to still be around, because we live in the internet and, things change, monthly, never mind yearly.
So I probably should change that. Where do you see it in a year or two time?
Yeah, I think from a code perspective, it's looking as strong as ever. The stuff that I see and hear that the Joomla 4 architecture group and now the UX group for Joomla 4 is doing all sounds really great. And actually, they're making really fast progress on it as well, which is pretty cool. And I know this weekend they're having the second physical sprint meetup, which I think is in Athens in Greece.
Yes, that's
so
right.
I think from a code perspective, things are going really well. As for the other stuff, I think it's challenging times from a sort of a community aspect. I think we've lost our way a bit over the last 3 or 4 years, and we've done a lot of starting projects and not finishing them, or not maintaining them and keeping them up. And we need to make some hard decisions about some of those, about whether we carry on with them or whether we stop them or whether we radically change them or what. And I think that's going to be a challenging time. I remember I worked for a non-profit a few years ago, and they got a new chief executive came in, and the chief executive said, "I want you to fail." And everyone's like, "What do you mean, I want you to fail?" If you fail at something, it means you're trying new stuff. Everything that if you never trying new stuff, you'll always succeed, but you're not really pushing the envelope. So I want to see you fail. The challenge, of course, is that when something is failing, is to recognise that it's a failure and stop it. And I think over the last few years we've missed that opportunity, and we need to grab it and maybe trim the fat in some areas. Mm-hmm. We have, I'll give one example. We have a site, ideas.joomla.org. Actually, the only 2 people who've got the password for it, as far as I know, are no longer involved in the project, haven't been for a few years. It's not really used. It's definitely not maintained, but it's still there and linked to. We should just, either take control of it again or abandon it, close it down. It had a role. It doesn't anymore, probably. And I think we need to make those hard decisions.
Really good points of view there, Brian, and thank you for contributing to the 100th episode of the podcast as well. It's good to have you back on.
Yeah, congratulations on your 100th episode. I can't remember which episode I was on last time, but it was one of your very first ones.
Episode 8, back in 2013.
It's amazing to think you managed to keep this going for 100 episodes. I know how much work it takes to do something week in, week out, and so congratulations to you for doing that.
Thank you,
thank you as well. For there's definitely stuff each week that I hear on the each show on the podcast that I didn't know that. So always adds to the knowledge.
Thanks, Brian, and thanks for your kind words too.
Yeah, no worries.
So thank you, Brian, for joining me on the podcast again and contributing to the 100th episode. A couple of interesting things that he mentioned there that's happening with the future of Joomla.
I'd be very interested to hear what they're doing with the UX group.
Yeah, I haven't caught up with them yet to find out exactly what's happening with the Joomla 4 UX, but it's really good to hear that the initiatives there. There's a lot of movement forward on that as well. I know Soren, who I interviewed a couple of podcast episodes ago, is the lead on the UX and the new design of the admin interface, which is really, really important. And I think Crystal Harris is the lead for the general Joomla 4 UX. So it should be It's actually probably the first time where a big team like this, I know Joomla 3 had a UX team, but the Joomla 4 UX team is quite a bit bigger and contributing a lot earlier in the process rather than contributing after when the code's already done. I'm hoping to contribute as much as possible in terms of accessibility at this point too, to make sure that Joomla 4 is accessible as possible. Lots of fun. Lots of fun, lots of work. But it's interesting how Brian was saying that 10 years on, you wouldn't know where Joomla is. And now it's at a very interesting crossroad of transition into the new leadership and how we're actually structured and how we run as an organization. But I've got this interview here that I did with that I picked up from Peter Russell, who was one of the original co-founders, and he started the original podcast called Joomla Juice.
I thought yours was the original one.
No.
Joomla Juice, that's a really cool name, actually.
I know. He had a tagline on the intro where it goes something like, where you get your freshly squeezed Joomla news. How cool is that? That's actually pretty creative. I never came up with anything like that. Anyway.
Hey, Joomla Beat is okay. Sounds pretty happening.
Yeah. It took me maybe 2 minutes to come up with that name.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. I was in our old office and I was just sitting there staring at the wall. This is just after New Year's, so the office was dead. Only I was in there, I think. And I was staring at the wall going, what am I going to call this?
Did you hear some noises in the background?
I have no idea. I have no idea how it popped into my head. I think I just Joomla Beat. Yeah, that would do. Is the domain name available? Yeah.
Well, that's surprising.
Yeah, oh, hang on. I can get an Austrian one, so it had a .at. It actually works pretty well. There we go. I'll call it Joomla Beat. That was it. That was the name. I had no creative thought behind it whatsoever. It just popped into my head.
Well, so all the best ideas do.
Yeah. Well, it stuck. It stuck well. And a lot of people...
And 100 episodes later?
Exactly. Anyway,
Here
I'll play this little clip from Joomla Juice when Peter interviews Mitch Pirtle, who is one of the original core developers of Joomla 1.
Oh, what a flashback.
Yeah. So this goes back even before Joomla was released. And Mitch talks a little bit about how the atmosphere was like when the Joomla split actually happened. So this podcast interview was happening right back then.
The Joomla split from Mambo, well, it was Open Source Matters initially, wasn't it? So tell us a bit about what that felt like.
Well, it was gut-wrenching for me. I'm sure everybody that you ask is going to have a different adjective, but for me it was gut-wrenching because it was clear that we were at a crossroads and a very, very difficult decision had to be made, and it was a decision that couldn't be rescinded. It was one of those one-way tickets, and in either direction, you're either going to the left or to the right, and whatever direction you choose, that's where you're headed. And we knew that there was going to be a lot of impact. There's going to be a lot of impact. A lot of people were going to feel the results of that decision, and that was something that we weren't really 100% in control of either, because it's one thing to say you're a core developer, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I can guarantee the community is going to always do what I want either. Just like, sometimes the community can't always guarantee the code what they want. So that goes both ways, and so it was a very frightening time. Of course, there were a lot of negative emotions. There was a lot of people, including myself, who felt misled and betrayed, and so there were some really strong emotions at that moment, and so it was difficult. I'm kind of proud of how we reacted, although a lot of people are frustrated with us because we didn't say a lot publicly. I'm hoping that people understand that was a bit of maturity stepping in, because we realized that mudslinging and making a very ugly public divorce really wouldn't serve anyone. those situations are basically a no-win scenario for everyone. So at least by trying to take the high road, we made it possible for at least one of the parties to come out looking good. And ultimately, Miro and the Mambo camp had made their decisions on how they were going to react to the situation. And still, honestly, yeah. I mean, and I guess the coolest part about all this is that I'd like to say that our reaction of being very, very tight-lipped about it made it possible for both parties to decide how they were going to react.
All right, that's a pretty cool interview that Peter did back then, all the way back then in 2005, 2006? 2005. Got to get the dates right. Anyway, if you want to hear any of those Joomla Juice podcast episodes, I've uploaded all of Peter's interviews and all of the podcast episodes that he has done onto my Spreaker account.
Did he get to 100?
No, he didn't. He made it to a quarter of a century.
Oh, what happened?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I probably should ask and find out. Maybe other things like work, that kind of thing. Yeah, life. But anyway, I've uploaded them all onto the Spreaker account, and I'll put a link on there so everyone can listen to it. It's already had over 400 downloads in the last week since I put them up.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so people are finding them as they are, probably not realizing that it's not the same podcast and because it's Peter, same host.
Like, why does Peter sound so strange this episode?
Has the same Australian kind of accent, but a little bit different.
He's changed.
Yes. Anyway, let's go into the next interview here. Here I have Henry from Joomla Shine, and he's based in Vietnam. Could you please tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and how did you discover Joomla?
Okay, thank you for inviting me to this postcard, and this is my story on my Joomla experience. Back to 2007, this time is the Mambo time, and we were working on some custom project, and we had to select some CMS for our customer, and then we found Mambo, and it was very impressive, and then we follow it, and it became Joomla. So we create our first extension for Joomla and then the first template, and we can sell it. So the business was starting.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What was your very first extension?
It's the Joomla gallery. Its name is GSN Image Show. It will show the image in many transition and layout.
Yes. I think is that one still available? Have you?
Yeah, it's still available. Yeah,
still there. Wow. Been there for almost day one then.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So, when you first started using Joomla, did you look at anything else like WordPress or Drupal?
Yeah, by that time there was some other choice. I never heard about Drupal by that time, but we were using PHP Nuke.
Oh my god!
Yes, and some kind like V-Bulletin or Typo 2 or something like that. But Joomla was awesome. And we found it's very easy to extend and easy to create some plugin and mob. And then we choose for our service, and then we create our business on Joomla.
Very cool. So over the years, that would be, 8-9 years after you're building the business, Joomla Shine is doing all this really cool things. Is there anything that you're working on now that's really cool that you can share?
Well, we are working on 2 extensions, and it's some kind like very bring some new user experience to Joomla. It's a Joomla Shine, just an easy slider and the page builder. The thing is, we use some different JavaScript framework on that product, and it bring the very intuitive user experience for Joomla user. So they can be very easy to use to handle the Joomla website. And
Yeah, I was playing around with the Joomla Shine page builder and demonstrating it to some people the other week.
Oh, cool.
And it really is. Like, if no one's ever tried it, they should really just download it and give it a go and watch the demo video. I thought that was a really good way of showing how you can actually quickly build a page just from an article and just dragging and dropping in all your elements. Yeah. Very nice work. It's very cool. That is definitely something cool that you're working on.
Yes, because I think Joomla needs to be easier to use, and so many people who are not technical knowledge, they can use Joomla to build a simple website. So all we are building is the very easy extension for Joomla users.
And it's very good work too.
Yeah.
So how are you contributing to Joomla? So you're using Joomla every day and building up your business. Is there any way that you're contributing back to the community?
Yeah, we are contributing back by many different ways, you know. In fact, I am the main responsible for the translation language of Vietnamese. Joomla Vietnamese language. And we have contribute code to Joomla 3.0. We have contribute code and some feature inside the Joomla backend. And I must say we have many free Joomla products. I think when we providing free high quality Joomla product, that's the best way we can contribute to Joomla.
I think so too.
Yeah, Joomla users they need free products. But when we want to spread Joomla, we must have more free high quality product. So when the Joomla users they use a free product and they think it's good, they will buy later.
Exactly. So like something like a easy slider, a simple little slideshow that they want to put on their website, but they can't work out how. But you make a really good one that they can manage, and hey presto, it makes their websites just that much better. It doesn't just build the reputation for Joomla, but also the developers yourselves that make it. So it's really cool.
And also we have the Joomla knowledge portal that we share about Joomla article, Joomla news, documentation, and we even build some tutorial for Joomla, and even the free ebook for Joomla 3.x.
I remember that one. Yeah. Yes. Do you do any of it in Vietnamese for the local community?
I gathering up some Joomla provider every month, and we are in the discussion of creating a Joomla day in Vietnam soon.
Very cool, very cool. Hopefully I'm around and I can come to it.
I just had a meeting with some Joomla developer last week, and we have the plan in our mind to creating a Joomla day for Vietnam.
Do it. Be very exciting. Would it be the first one? I've never seen one in Vietnam before.
No. It's not the first one because in long time ago, in 2009, we have a Joomla day, very big Joomla day, and Joomla Shine was one of the main sponsor for that Joomla day, but it was a long time ago.
Yes, too long ago.
Yeah, too long. So I want to bring back the Joomla day to our country, you know.
Yeah. There's actually a lot of service providers and extension developers and template developers for Joomla in Vietnam. There's a lot of really talented people there.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's yourselves, there's Joomla Art, and I can't think of another one.
Yeah, Joomla Art and Time Plaza, you know?
Yep.
Zoom donation, yeah.
Yeah, and the list goes on. That's really cool. I know there's a lot of freelancers and business people as well in Vietnam that use Joomla, so it's very cool to see it grow there. But besides all the community stuff, what do you see in the future for Joomla?
Well, the future of Joomla, I must say we still one of the 3 most used web platform on the internet, and I don't think the list will be change soon because Joomla WordPress and Drupal we still doing good, but we need to improve our Joomla software, you know.
Yeah.
So because when users going to the website, they need more powerful web service. So if we stay standing still with the Joomla CMS, we lost our users. So we should improve Joomla to keep our stand in the top 3.
Yes.
And I believe we have the community. We have Joomla enthusiasts. We have very many talent developers, and the main thing is our Joomla spirit are unique because we are purely volunteers to contribute to Joomla.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So I think in the future, Joomla is still the main player in the web platform.
Completely agree, and thank you for your viewpoint of the future there as well. And thank you so much for joining me on the 100th episode. It's really good to get you on and talking about Joomla and sharing your little story as well.
Yeah, thank you, Pete.
And thank you so much, Henry, for joining me on the podcast. I'll make sure I put links up to Joomla Shine, etc. onto the show notes. And I'm really looking forward to Joomla Day Vietnam.
That is awesome. When is it?
No confirmed dates yet, but I'm hoping it's when we are over there.
We definitely have to go.
Yes.
If we're over there.
Yes. Yes.
That'd be so exciting.
Henry mentioned something. What did he say? Joomla beers? I think they like to party a little bit and enjoy themselves. So a Joomla Day Vietnam with beers would be fantastic. That sounds great to me.
Is that the next step for Joomla? Bringing out some beers and
a
line of alcohol.
Well, if any of the Joomla events are to go by, the amount of alcohol that gets consumed in terms of beer at some of these conferences is quite a lot. So if Joomla did bring out its own brand of beer,
it would be really successful.
Yes, it would fund the project quite well, and we could probably start selling them at WordPress WordCamps. I think it would do well. Anyway, let me play another message from a listener that had put in a thank you and congratulations to us.
We loved listening to these, didn't we?
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone that contributed.
Hi, Peter. It's Glenn from Aussie Tech Heads. Congratulations on your 100th Joomla Beat episode. Your podcast is most informative. I only wish it was around when I was learning Joomla 1.0. The time and effort you take to produce a well-polished podcast is appreciated. Here's to the next 100. Cheers.
Isn't that awesome?
Awesome.
Yeah, cool. And Glenn runs Aussie Tech Heads, which is a tech podcast which has been going on for absolutely ages. I thought I'd check up on him and see what podcast episode he was at, and he's up to 380.
It sounded like he started at Joomla 1.
Yeah.
Oh.
So his Aussie Tech Heads website, last time I checked, was in Joomla as well. And he's been doing this podcasting thing way longer than I have. He's a total veteran. When podcasting first came out, that's when he was doing it. I just came on the second wave.
Okay.
Yeah. A little bit behind. But anyway, let's get into the next interview here. And next up, I have John Neubauer, who's based in the United States. And he does some pretty interesting things for the community.
So, John, how did you actually discover Joomla?
I actually discovered Joomla through getting a new job. I was hired by a Joomla development firm out of Massachusetts. I think this is in 2009, 2009 or 2010. And they were primarily using Joomla. And so I kind of had to learn it very quickly. And much credit to Joomla, I was able to kind of get up to speed and be able to start contributing in Joomla projects for clients as far as managing content and helping build basic websites for them very quickly. And of course, through more exploration, trial and error, hands-on experience, was able to get up to speed on building larger projects and stuff like that rather quickly thanks to Joomla. But that was kind of my introduction to the Joomla software was through getting a new job. My introduction to the community was through the Joomla Community Magazine when it first launched. Their first edition, they issued a call for volunteers, for the ongoing maintenance and editing and stuff like that of the magazine. And I figured this would be a good entry point into the Joomla community, and it really was. It was a great team and a great atmosphere, camaraderie, and a really great point for a new volunteer to become involved in the community.
So it's a pretty a nice foray into the Joomla community by doing and working on the magazine. Are you still contributing to that part of the Joomla community?
Not anymore. I have gotten involved over the last 7 or 8 years in so many different parts of the community that have taken up a lot of my time. So I don't have the bandwidth and sanity to be able to contribute to all of them at the same time. And the magazine is one of those that I don't have the opportunity or the time to contribute to anymore. But they have an amazing team that puts out a magazine every month. I don't think they've missed a single month since they started all the way back then, which is really amazing for a volunteer team. So it's they're still running just fine.
Indeed. But when you first started using Joomla at CMP Integrations and learning how to build the websites, did you use any other platforms then? Like, did you expose yourself to WordPress or Drupal at that time?
Yeah, so prior to working at CMP Integrations, I did most of my work in WordPress. To be honest, I hadn't really heard of Joomla before. I had worked building websites for a marketing firm before that. They were an SEO firm, and so we built web. I was part of the team that built, the web properties for companies' marketing efforts. And if you're involved in any way in the marketing world, you'll know that WordPress is, king for them. They practically know of nothing else for content management besides WordPress. So I honestly hadn't heard of Joomla before this. I was just looking for a new opportunity that would get me, working with a team that was closer to home. And, so this opportunity came up. And so most of my work before CNP Integrations was in WordPress. Since then, I've done some Drupal work and stuff like that, but definitely more a Joomla guy myself.
So what makes it about Joomla that you've stuck with that over your experience with WordPress and Drupal?
Yeah, so it's a really bad marketing position, but it's a really good in real life position to be that middle of the road between WordPress and Drupal. You have WordPress that is super easy to use, but even now in 2015, with all its growth and the amazing stuff that WordPress can do, is still extremely limiting as far as the logic of working with websites and some of its more advanced capabilities. And on the other end of that, you have Drupal, which can do mind-boggling things, but it requires an enormous amount of effort just to learn the basics, and that amount of effort doesn't go down the more you try to learn about it. So while it may make for a not-so-good marketing slogan, Joomla really does occupy an enviable position of being in the middle there with a very gracious learning curve to new users, but also an enormous amount of flexibility through its own core and through its very large extension ecosystem.
I think you make some really good points there. Is there anything that you can share that you're working on at the moment that's pretty cool?
I can't really share much of my work for the State Department. So commercial work, I can't share very much of that. We have some very interesting projects going using both the CMS and the framework. So it's a lot of fun. I fortunately can't share with that.
Sure.
As far as in the community, there's a lot of exciting things that are always happening. One of the things I'm really excited about is another team I'm working on is working on a new part for Joomla, a new section for Joomla.org called Joomla TV. Because over the years, the Joomla community creates or has created and is creating hundreds and thousands of hours of free education through Joomla Days, international Joomla conferences, even Joomla user groups, every single month. Knowledge is being transferred and shared between the Joomla community. But trying to find that can be a little bit daunting. So we're creating a new section on Joomla.org called Joomla TV, where we're going to start collecting all of the video recordings of these conferences and Joomla Days and Joomla user groups and sessions that happen, into one place where you can easily find, on so many Joomla topics covering just about anything you could ever want to do with Joomla has probably been covered and, knowledge shared about at a Joomla event. So it's something very exciting that I'm really excited about. We're getting ready to hopefully launch that this month in October. So you should see that coming out very soon.
That is very, very cool, John. I didn't realize that was happening either. So definitely looking forward to that one. There's so much content out there on YouTube and Vimeo and all those other video networks.
Yeah. I know Jay and Beyond has just passed, I think they have 500 videos now on just their single YouTube channel, and that's just one Joomla event. You have the Joomla World Conference. You have dozens and dozens of Joomla days happening every single year, where many of them are recorded. We have Joomla User Group. I think actually your Joomla User Group in Brisbane in Australia records every single one of their Joomla User Group meetups.
That's
and
right.
It's available on Vimeo. And so we're pulling all of this information in and kind of creating an index or a database where you can very easily find information and learn more about Joomla through the knowledge that has been shared at these events.
And it will probably promote all of those events too.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing that we're integrating in here is collecting live streams. So at events like the Joomla World Conference, Jay and Beyond, and I'm sure at some Joomla days, a lot of our sessions are live streamed. But, unless you're actually following that Joomla day on Twitter, you might not know that it's even happening. Nevertheless, there's a live stream happening.
Yeah.
So we're creating a collection of a place where, you can go to joomla.org/TV and see when the next live event is happening and just come right back there to watch it. So we're really excited about this. I think it's going to be a really great opportunity to help share the knowledge. Not only is our software open source, but our knowledge is open source, and it's always amazing the amount of knowledge that could be kept private and as some sort of intellectual property or corporate value that is just freely shared with our community. And we want to make sure that people have the opportunity to take advantage of that.
I would love to see some sign-up reminders or something where people can sign up and get reminders that the live streams are coming up, or the videos for the next Joomla World Conference will be online after this date. That'd be really cool.
That's a great idea. We haven't really thought of that yet. We're just trying to get this off the ground, but I'm making a note of that right now to pass it back to the team because you're right. That would be a really useful feature.
Yeah, a little capture point so we can get to know our community members and the people that are interested in the videos just that little bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So what do you see for the future of Joomla, John? Or how do you see it in 2 years' time, maybe 3 or 4 years' time?
The software is hard to predict. To some extent, it's very easy to predict. It's going to be Joomla. If some things have changed over the years, we now have 100% responsive software, front end, back end. And if you asked us in 2005, are you concerned about being responsive? People would have probably said, what's responsive? So some things have changed. But if you look at the underlying architecture of Joomla, there's articles and menu items, and then you put modules on those menu items around those articles. That's probably going to stay the same. It's just going to get better. So, there's a lot of exciting things happening there, but I think Joomla is going to continue to improve based off of the setup or architecture that we have proven over the last decade it works for website owners and website builders and users. The community has a lot of opportunity, and I think it's in a unique and exciting time right, as we speak, with the transition in our organizational structure. It's a very exciting time, and I'm not sure what I see in the future for that. There's a lot of opportunity there for growth, for engagement of people that maybe weren't so engaged before, now being able to have a voice in the broader community and the actual direction of the project, making it easier for us to onboard new volunteers into productive roles in the community instead of, them maybe just kind of poking around and not seeing much and leaving. There's a lot of opportunities there. There's also a lot of opportunities for things to go wrong too. If we fail in implementing this new transition or this new structure correctly, or there's a lot of valid criticisms of it, but if those stand in the way of implementing it, we could be looking at a less engaged community in the future. So I think right now is a really exciting time in Joomla. There's a lot of change. There's a lot of new things happening that have a lot of potential for us to grow, but it's kind of hard to predict exactly what things are going to look like in a couple of years because we've never done this before. We've never tried to just overhaul our entire organizational structure.
It is definitely going to be a very interesting time, and like you said, a very exciting time as well. Well, thank you, John, for joining me on the 100th episode and giving us that really quick overview of yourself and everything that you do for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
How is that Joomla TV? That sounds pretty cool.
That sounds amazing, actually. So if you can't make it to a world conference or you don't want to travel, you can just sit back and watch the event unfold.
Yeah, live streaming. If
you can drink your Joomla beer while you're watching.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretend you're a part of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Be right in the mix of everything.
And, a lot of people can't afford to actually travel to these Joomla conferences around the world. And visa issues.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was struggling to get a visa to go to India from Australia. Who would have thought? I thought it should be a quick, easy process, but I got rejected.
Yeah, well, apparently, didn't you say it was for a conference, whereas you should have just lied and said it was a tourist visa?
If on my application... hopefully the immigration don't hear this. I'm sure they won't. Hang on. Anyway, if I just wrote, yes, tourist visa, I would have probably been approved on the spot and everything would have been fine.
Should have just said you're going to a yoga retreat.
Yeah, but I
yoga, Joomla, that kind of sounds quite similar. Well, hang on, wait, you have been doing yoga at Joomla conferences.
I sure do. That's my thing. I take people on yoga classes at Joomla conferences. So, yeah, I've done it at 2 now. 2? Yep, 2.
But it's okay because you didn't lie.
Yes, I couldn't lie. I had to tell the truth. So it's probably a better thing, right?
Right.
Anyway, let me play another hello message from our listeners.
Hey, Peter, Martina. Great to listen to you each time you come out and keeping the community feel of Joomla. It's nice to keep up to date, even after 4 years of working with Joomla. There's still more to learn and more to find out. You guys bring a good feel. Thank you and keep it going.
Oh, good feels.
I know.
That's so sweet.
Thanks, Tristan.
I love hearing all these awesome accents as well from around the world.
Yeah, and Tristan's been listening to the podcast almost since day one.
Yeah. And like you said, there's always something to learn, so you just keep going deeper down the rabbit hole.
Yes. I learn a huge amount from the people I interview. It's a really good way to learn things.
Or you just do this whole thing for selfish reasons, don't you?
Don't know what you speak of. Anyway, next up I have...
The truth comes out in the 100th episode.
Next up I have Parth joining me from India. He's one of the other key organisers of the Joomla World Conference. He's helping a lot on the ground. As you can imagine, if you have someone on the ground in India to actually do some of this stuff, scoping things out, it could help. But Parth runs his company in Joomla doing some amazing stuff. Now, could you explain a little bit about how you discovered Joomla when you first laid your hands on the Joomla code?
So, when we actually first discovered Joomla, it wasn't called Joomla, it was called Mambo back then. So, it so happened that we used to run a community portal, an eco portal of sorts, which was basically running on something called as PHP Nuke. And this was a pretty quirky system. And we were basically always looking for options to change that over to. So this was back when we were actually just in college. And me and my partner Ashwin were fiddling around with code in PHP Nuke. And you'll find it funny, but if I had to install a new component in there, we had to actually probably edit like 30 odd files and paste bits of code here and there.
Wow. I feel sorry for anyone that used PHP Nuke. I remember installing it and I managed to get it working, but I never customized it like what you were saying there.
So we were using that, and then we discovered Mambo, and in Mambo you could actually install stuff, right? So that itself was like, wow. And when we first saw that, we actually fell completely in love with it. So since then it's been Mambo, and then once Joomla came out, we obviously switched over. So that was the first look. I mean, it was an extremely advanced system back then compared to what was available outside, and then there was no way we were going to work on anything else. In fact, that change actually probably caused us to switch our entire life to Joomla, because back then we were doing our mechanical engineering in college. So both me and Ashwin are mechanical engineers, and discovering Joomla probably got us switched over to completely a different type of work, because from mechanical engineering to computers and web development. So it's influenced us in a lot of ways.
Fantastic. So you were playing around with PHP Nuke, Mambo. Did you play around with any other content management systems that were around then? I think WordPress would have been around then, and Drupal would have just started.
WordPress was around. Yeah. WordPress was there. I think Drupal also came. We actually started using Drupal a little bit as well. So we have worked actually with WordPress and Drupal, not as much as we work with Joomla. But what we found great with Joomla, I mean, this of course not in the Joomla 1.0 days, but since 1.5 came out, we have always loved the way the code has been separated. That is the MVC architecture versus if you use Joomla 1.0 and if you use WordPress, it's more or less the same. There's no MVC, there's no object-oriented programming there. So it's easier to code there. So obviously the entry barrier kind of went up when Joomla 1.5 came. With WordPress and Joomla 1.0, probably anybody can get a little coding done. But with Joomla MVC, you have to have a little bit more discipline. But having the discipline, actually, what we have found is that it's much better if you want to manage a little bigger size projects. Otherwise, things can get really crazy in terms of managing code and scaling it up properly. As far as Drupal is concerned, Drupal is actually pretty flexible. But what I've found is that Drupal ends up being almost like it's almost closed source. It's not closed source, but you end up having a vendor lock-in. So because Drupal is so modular and you got that built from one vendor, he gets a lot of flexibility in how he wants to build it. So when you go with the same code to another vendor, he's going to be having a lot of learning curve to know how the earlier guy did it. So that kind of thing doesn't happen with Joomla, because there is a certain way to code, there is a certain discipline in which you have to do things. So it's easier to read somebody else's code as long as they are actually following the APIs and sticking to coding it right. So that is what kind of got us to a place where we thought that Joomla worked better for us. And eventually we went on taking more Joomla projects. We still do a little bit of Drupal and WordPress work, but then the CMS of choice always ends up being Joomla.
That's fantastic. That's a really good explanation of, from a developer's point of view, the differences between all three major platforms as well. So thank you for explaining that to all the listeners too. Now, you've built your business over the years and contributed to Joomla over the years as well. Is there anything cool that you can share with the community at the moment that you're working on, whether it's for work or within the community?
So there's quite a few things actually. But what I've been promoting in all the communities, especially once using Joomla, is that Joomla can be really used as a starting point for cloud applications. And we are actually doing that for a few of our own products. And what I've seen is that if we can create this community or umbrella of cloud applications which work based on Joomla, I think Joomla will never have any dearth of good coders. Because if you have really good quality cloud applications depending on something upstream like Joomla, that is going to be naturally going to solve a lot of problems that Joomla faces right now, where we end up saying that we don't have good developers, or rather we don't have enough good developers that contribute back to the core. So I am talking a lot about something called as the spirit of open source, or how you can actually embed the spirit of open source in your organization. So whether you are deploying a service project or you are building a product, if you plan it right, you can almost always end up contributing back to Joomla or whatever it is that you're using. And we are doing a lot of things around this sustainable way of development right now. So if we are building a product on top of Joomla, we make sure that something of that goes back into Joomla. So there's a lot of exciting things around that that are happening right now.
Very, very cool indeed. So that's one way you're contributing back, but I know you're contributing in so many teams and so many other parts as well. Do you want to share how else you're contributing to Joomla?
Oh, absolutely. So one thing is that I am on the Joomla marketing team. I haven't been very active in the last 3 months because there have been a lot of things moving. And I'm also on the JWC team, so I'm also helping with the local organization here, helping them get all the local things together. So those are the main areas. Really.
That was JWC, the Joomla World Conference, right?
Yeah, the Joomla World Conference.
Yeah, okay, go on.
So the Joomla World Conference, while we are on it, it's happening in Bangalore on between the 6th to 8th of November this month. And we hope if this episode is going out anytime before that, we hope a lot of your listeners will be coming as well.
Yes, this will be coming out on the... everyone will be listening to this, and it should be the 21st of October.
Okay.
So perfect timing. So if you can get to India and get to Bangalore, then come along to the Joomla World Conference and see all the hard work that Path has contributed into. But all of that volunteer stuff aside, but thank you for all of that volunteer work. But how do you see the future of Joomla? Where do you see Joomla going, and what do you see in its future?
So from my perspective, I've always seen Joomla as more of an application development platform than a typical content management system. Because today what Joomla does as a content management system is probably the most it's ever done. Because with tags and versioning and all the features that we have now, Joomla 1.5 never had that, and it was still a CMS back then. So I always like to say that Joomla 3 probably as it stands now is more CMS than it ever was. But I still think that it's much more powerful as an application development platform. So Joomla does have a higher learning curve, but then we have to decide if we want to compete with WordPress, which is more like a DIY website tool. But WordPress can't compete with Joomla as an application development platform. So I would rather focus with Joomla being more of a little bit of a serious developer's tool than a do-it-yourself kind of a tool. And we have built really big projects on top of Joomla like that. And we have seen that Joomla can really scale well, both in terms of building any kind of features on top and at the same time, be able to manage a truckload of users using them. So for me, I think Joomla growing as a web application development interface definitely is very exciting. But at the same time, Joomla definitely needs to work on its usability, because though you don't want to probably replace WordPress, but you still want to cater to the demands of the users that are growing. So that's something that I've seen that so Joomla is 10 years today, and the web has changed a lot in the last 10 years. The amount of people that have come on the web and the type of people that have come on the web has changed. So 10 years back, probably the web itself was kind of a geeky place to be in. There were lots of geeks and geeky things worked well. But today, the web is more like a consumer marketplace, and it's end users that are on the web. So we need to adapt to make sure that if we decide that we want to cater to this new consumer audience, the entire new consumer audience, we need to change like that. Or we need to decide that we are still, good for geeks, and we need to cater to that audience without really worrying about are we really, getting the market share of the CMS piece. But I would rather say we should just concentrate on are we doing what's right for our audience.
It's very interesting, and defining who the right audience is, I guess, changes perspective, actually, depending on who you ask and where they're based, which is very interesting after doing all these interviews and asking what people think the future is. But thank you so much for your opinions there and your insights into the Joomla industry, and sharing a little bit of your backstory there too, Path. And thank you for being on the 100th episode of the podcast.
Thanks a lot. It was nice to be here.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Path's building some crazy stuff with Joomla.
Sounds very Joomla-Stein.
What, like What, Frankenstein?
Yeah.
I guess
creating
that's,
a monster.
Yeah, maybe he is. Is it,
in a good way.
A good monster. Well, I think Frankenstein was supposed to be a good monster, wasn't he?
Well, Frankenstein was actually the scientist.
Really?
Yeah.
Then what did he create?
The monster. That's why it's called Frankenstein's monster.
Oh.
So you do learn something new every day.
Yes, even on this podcast. You don't just learn Joomla things.
No,
you learn
that's right.
the correct story of Frankenstein and his monster. There you go. All right.
Do you know who wrote that book?
No.
Do you want to know?
Here, go on.
Mary Shelley.
A woman?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have picked it from that type of genre. Horror,
Might
monster.
have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Yep, and I did a quick Google, and you're right. It's Mary Shelley. How about that? Learned 2 things tonight.
I haven't read the book, though. That must go on my reading list.
Okay. Maybe I'll put it onto your Kindle.
Oh, good idea.
Yes, another thing to add to that. for your Christmas present.
Woo!
Yay. All right. So let me play another little hello message from our listeners.
Hey, Peter. Congratulations. Episode 100. I've got to say, it's just fantastic that someone with so much knowledge is prepared to share it with so many people, and, the generosity of that. And I've learned so much. Thank you. It's Bruce Nicholson. Bye-bye.
I don't think I share that much.
Well, I guess with the interviews and all the general knowledge and well, maybe not general knowledge.
Well, it's not general knowledge to everyone, but I guess, the information I managed to extract out of people kind of helps.
That's so lovely to hear that people are actually learning from this podcast.
Yeah. And did you know that Bruce actually shared your I'm in Fusion post? So he'll be going to the Body, Mind, Spirit Festival this weekend.
Yay! I'll get to meet him this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. But I forgot to bring him the tickets. So I have to remind him, just rock up and I'll run out and give him the tickets. We completely digressed there. Sorry, everyone. Anyway, let me play this next interview that I got up. And this one's from Ryan Osmiak, who was a former OSM board member and then became a OSM board member again, and now is a former OS board member once again. He's retired again. Sucker for punishment. So, Ryan, how did you discover Joomla? What was your first experience using it?
So, gosh, it's been a while now. Now, it's okay on this podcast to go back to Mambo days, right?
Yeah. Majority of people do.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, gosh, it was way back, and I think it was 2002, 2003, maybe.
Whoa, that's way back. All right,
the way back machine. Was looking to help organizations with websites, website management, and back in those days, I think the idea of being able to manage a website on your own sounded pretty foreign to people, especially if it had to do with, something you can do in your web browser. So we were kind of hacking together our own CMS type thing using PHP and learning from /code and PHP nuke and post nuke. I don't know if people remember those days, but gosh, those were pretty rough. And came across Mambo because just happened to come across it being frustrated looking for something that the accidental techie at an organization could use. You didn't need to be a programmer. You weren't necessarily the lead marketing person, but you were the person in between there. Came across it, showed it to a great organization here in Washington, D.C., and they connected with it right away. And I said, my goodness, we might have something here that's actually easy for the average end user to be able to get up and running with. So it's been quite some time.
Wow, that is pretty cool. So you played around with a couple of other platforms there with PHP, Nuke, etc. Did you touch on the WordPress side or the Drupal side when it was coming out as well?
Yeah, we played around in both of those worlds. What we really enjoyed, especially early on, even in the Mambo days and in 2005 when Joomla started up, we were really interested in the idea of extensions, and that a lot of our organizations wanted to start with maybe blogging or basic content management, but wanted to go beyond that. And they wanted to be able to install things themselves. They wanted to be able to customize it themselves. They didn't want to worry about having to hack into code to make that happen. And we were just really impressed where Joomla fit in that spectrum of being able to say, well, it's easy enough for an average administrator to be able to find and install and upload a zip file to give it some more functionality, and more complex than just, a couple of pages of content to do a blog. So even early on, it really feels like Joomla was ahead of the curve in helping folks out.
That's awesome. So you've grown your business over the years since then using Joomla primarily. Is there anything cool that you can share that you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, at PicNet, our business, we do a lot of work in the nonprofit space or in the government space. We've been lucky enough to work with great organizations like the Nature Conservancy, which is a very large nonprofit environmental group here in the U.S. We've had a chance to work with really good membership-based organizations like the Social Venture Network that's helping people that are entrepreneurs and business people that are focused on a triple bottom line. So rather than just profits, thinking about people, the planet, and their impact on both of those as well. A variety of different types of projects like that's been really cool to see Joomla go from something that they've started off simple functionality, simple focus on design and content, and really move from there. So that's been fun to watch grow.
That's pretty cool. You're making an impact or helping organizations make a social impact as well. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's for me at least. It was interesting. So when I first started the company, this was way back in 1999, is the first recorded meeting we have of the business,
wow.
and I'd come out of a graduate school of public policy, and I was really focused on saying, how can we fill the gap in here to help organizations that are doing good have the right technology that the big companies have to make a lot of money. But how can we put that technology energy towards, making the world a better place? As kind of lofty and ridiculous as that might sound, we see ourselves as doing as being enablers. If we can be the tool makers and then hand the tools to the folks that are actually out there doing the hard work, well, that sounds a lot better to me than, working for a casino or a big corporation. So it's our little part of being part of a much bigger ecosystem.
Very cool indeed. Very cool. Now, I know that you contribute to Joomla quite a bit, and you have so over the years. You're probably one of the longest standing people that I know that have been contributing. Can you tell the listeners how you're involved with Joomla and how you contribute back to the Joomla community?
When I first found Joomla and I first learned about the community, what I was really impressed with is the acceptance and the understanding of talents of all people, including people like myself that don't have many technical talents, and really wanted to be able to say, everybody can help. Here's a shovel. Find a way to help us dig and build together. And the way that I've contributed over the years has really been on, I think, more of an organizing perspective, on a bit of a leadership perspective, trying to do the best I can to help build our community to be amazing. I think that a lot of times what ends up happening in great communities is fantastic folks that are oftentimes just kind of pointed to other folks that when they connect do amazing things. And I felt that my contribution to Joomla would be best served if I could be one of those people that says, if you and you get together, I bet you we're going to see some awesome stuff. So I would really see myself maybe as a contributor, more as a facilitator, potentially a leader of what we've seen happen in the last 10 years of Joomla.
That is very cool indeed. And you served on the OSM board twice.
That's right. That's right. I came back for a victory lap, I guess. I joined the board in 2007 in a snowy winter day in New York City, where Johan and Lewis back in the day had encouraged me, or at least recommended that I learn more about the OSM board of directors, and was told very clearly that this was only going to be dealing with financial and legal aspects of the project. And I'm glad that it became a lot more of an experience than just that, because I don't think that bookkeeping or writing legal jargon is really my strong suits. But it gave me a launch pad to do some pretty incredible things that I feel really lucky to have done. And so I served on the board for about, I think, 7 years total. Was the events chair, the founder of the Capital Committee. I was a secretary, got elected to president for a couple of terms, retired, and then came back about a year and a half ago, and just finished out my last term just a couple days ago. And I'm back in the retirement home of other OSM and Joomla leaders and members.
You're a sucker for punishment. You came back for more. Yeah, but huge thanks for all your contributions and your leadership over the 7 years that you're around the Joomla project. Now, what do you see in the future now that you've stepped down, you're no longer an OSM board member? What do you see in the future for Joomla?
So, two things, one for me and one for the community. For me, I really see a fantastic opportunity to finish something that I, in a very lonely fashion, started about 4 years ago, which was a drive to find ways to make the organizational structure of the project and our leadership focused to move down a path of more effectiveness. I just really feel like there's a lot of smart people that care a lot and give a lot of time, and I respect their energies and time too much to see them kind of go in the wrong direction, in a direction that is maybe not as fruitful as others. So I pushed forward about 4 years ago a kind of overhaul of the way in which the project's leadership is structured, and that overhaul essentially was finally voted in by the leadership maybe a couple of months ago here, and I've now retired as a board member, but I'm on the transition team for the Joomla project's organization structure to ensure the kind of the last mile of work that needs to be done for completing that. So it's again, I feel really lucky and really special to be a part of the team. There's great people doing that, and I think once this gets implemented, there's a huge amount of opportunity for the project. So that's from a personal side, and on a project side, you know, I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but when you have good people that care a lot and work well together and you give them great tools to work with, like, I really think awesome things are going to happen. And I think what I've been trumpeting for the last year or two is I would love to see our community continue to think beyond the CMS. So I appreciate and I honor the last 10 years of the Joomla CMS, and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. I do think that the talents that we have and the code that we've written and the expertise that we've got are the types of things that when brought together can move, especially the Joomla framework, into doing some really interesting things. You know, we're living in a world of big data. We're living in a world of mobile. We're living in a world of almost ubiquitous connectivity. There's so many different and new challenges today that we didn't see in 2005 that I think Joomla is poised in an open source manner to be able to tackle. And I think we've got the right people on the bus to move us forward to get there. And it's going to take, that next generation of innovation or ingenuity to get us there, and the willingness as a community to try new things. You know, I don't think we can rest on the laurels of where we've been. I think technology changes faster than any of us really appreciate. And so I think it's time for us to continue to see what's the next area that Joomla can go into. And I just think that, especially from the framework, we've got a lot of opportunity ahead of us.
A very exciting future indeed. And thank you so much for joining me on the 100th episode of the podcast. It's great having you here as well.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure.
Wow, that's incredible. 7 years in total on OSM. That's a huge commitment.
That is impressive.
And he also started the events team. So I think it was part of the first Joomla World Conference. And then the other aspect of the capital committee, actually looking at ways to make money for the Joomla project. Who would have
That's
thought?
important.
I know. It's such a huge important factor of the project. Like how does the project actually make money to fund itself to do some cool things? So Ryan's actually contributed a huge amount to the project and some of that top level structuring. And now he's part of the Joomla transition team.
Incredible.
To take it to the next level. Because the current structure was only supposed to be temporary. It was only put in place to be there for like a year or two while they work out the next structure, and it took another 5-6 years to transition out of that. So, a little bit slow moving, but, we're getting there. All right. Let me play another message from our listeners.
Hey, Pete and Martina, it's Shannon here. Congratulations on 100 episodes of the Joomla Beat podcast, the best web development podcast on the internet. And I hope you guys do another 100 more. Looking forward to hearing lots more great news, tips, and just general Joomla goodness. Hope you guys are both well. Congratulations. See you later.
I wonder if he's using that microphone that we got him.
Yay, Shannon!
For those that don't know, Shannon used to be one of our staff members. He was a
star developer.
Star front-end developer, that's for sure.
And DJ superstar as well.
Yeah, superstar DJ.
We always had the coolest tunes in the office.
I know, I miss that.
I do too.
Yeah. Shannon, come back. Anyway, he's doing his own little thing now, so I think he's quite happy there.
It was good to hear from you, though, Shannon.
Yes, thank you for saying that in. Now, next up on my interview list here, I have Shayla. Shayla is one of the newer Joomla user group members here in Sydney, and she's just learning the ins and outs of Joomla, and I've enjoyed teaching her some pretty cool things. But she's made some interesting websites, and she's got some pretty cool clients that she's lining up at the moment.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah. She's got a really good niche of all the mummy bloggers on the North Shore here in Sydney. So she's got the captive market.
That is a good niche, isn't it?
Yes.
It's all about the mummy bloggers at the moment.
Not just mummy bloggers, but mummy businesses. Yes. We can't tap into that.
Why not?
Well, you're not a mum.
Neither are you.
Yeah, exactly. We can't tap into that. She's got that captured. Anyway, let's play this. Could you explain to the audience how you actually found Joomla? Where did Joomla come into your life, and when did you first start using it?
I suppose I discovered Joomla through a friend of mine called Eddie. He demonstrated how quickly and easily you get hold of a website. You can get one up and running with Joomla, and prior to which I used to create websites by hand, so HTML through Dreamweaver, and this CMS system just looked so much better and so much easier.
Oh, you're one of those hardcore girls that code websites line by line.
I was one of those.
And then, luckily enough, you found Joomla and you found the light.
I did indeed.
Yep. Did you play with anything else other than Joomla? Were you introduced to anything else like WordPress or Drupal?
So quite a long time before that, I was introduced to WordPress. It was quite a few years before, actually, when the developers like myself would think, that's not for developers, that's for people who can't develop. So it was quickly struck off.
So you've got a developer background.
So my background is Cold Fusion.
Ooh. Wow.
Which doesn't exist anymore. I know.
Okay. Hence using the Dreamweaver thing as well, because Cold Fusion and Dreamweaver, they were owned by what? Macromedia?
Yeah, Macromedia used to own Cold Fusion, and then it was bought out by Adobe, who then put it into Dreamweaver.
I see. Yes, you're one of those very rare few people that actually use Cold Fusion.
I was about in the times of Netscape, I'm afraid.
That's my time, as well,
Oh, you look so young.
It's the Asian skin or something. I don't know. What are you talking about? You look young as well. Anyway. Now, is there anything cool that you're working on with Joomla at the moment?
Sadly, no, not at the moment.
I completely disagree with you there.
Really?
Well, I know some of the stuff that you're working with. You're doing that paleo fever website.
Yeah, I am actually working on a paleo fever website at the moment. I wouldn't call it cool. I suppose it is interesting.
You don't think it's cool, but all your fans on Facebook have been asking for it.
Really? Okay.
Well, wasn't that the reason why you built the website? They've been asking for a place where they can actually get all your recipes for paleo diets and... I don't understand the whole paleo thing, but whatever it is, they've been asking for it.
Oh, I suppose so, yes. I guess that's true. But as with most developers, you don't get much time to spend on your own stuff because of clients who come first.
And I have to say that's probably another cool thing that you're doing. You're actually building up your business using Joomla.
I am. Admittedly, not solely in Joomla, but yes, I am. And actually, I am working on my own website, which is long overdue. So I'm setting up a little bit of an API to set up the hosting and support side of my business and billing. So hopefully there should be a little bit of API integration within that area.
Oh, really?
Yes.
See, that sounds really cool as well.
Only to a geek like us, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But remember, a lot of the listeners on this podcast are, small business owners and quite geeky as well. So they would appreciate hearing maybe a little bit more about that when you get it up and running.
Yay, when I get it up and running, it'd be good.
Yeah, in between all the client work. Yeah, I completely understand. Now, you've been using Joomla for a while now. How do you give back to the community, and what do you do for Joomla itself?
A difficult question. I suppose I purchase products and templates, and I suppose that sort of feeds back into the Joomla community. Mm-hmm. I attend the meetups, which you organise yourself.
With Tim?
With Tim, yes.
Yep.
With Tim, and virtually every month I'm at at that meetup in Sydney. I baked Joomla Sydney birthday cupcakes.
You sure did. They were delicious.
I hope so. Nobody died. That was good.
Always a good start.
I wear my Joomla 10 years of Joomla t-shirt, even to a WordPress meetup.
Yes, you do.
So I kind of try to promote it wherever I go, and hopefully that feeds into the Joomla community.
Oh, I think it does. It's the passion and the enthusiasm there that really shows. And like you said, rocking up to a WordPress meetup with a Joomla t-shirt is pretty brave.
I do my best.
Yes, exactly. And thank you. Last but not least, what do you see for the future of Joomla? I know it's a very hard question with technology changing all the time, such as technologies like Cold Fusion disappearing. But I don't see Joomla disappearing anytime soon. But what do you think the future of Joomla is?
Yeah, that is a difficult one to answer. I mean, it's a solid, intuitive CMS. I love using it. I think if the e-commerce side of things could be improved to match, say, something like WooCommerce, the future would be bright, very bright. Mm-hmm. It's great for these larger, complex websites, and quite difficult to beat, actually. I think it needs to rise to the challenge and become a modern CMS with, say, attention to the UX. I know there's talk of a lighter core, better back-end user interface and some hopefully great extensions to rival the likes of WooCommerce. And if all that goes to plan or goes ahead, and it will make it more mainstream, like a more mainstream CMS, and that would be pretty good. But as it stands, there's a lot of fans. There are a lot of people out there who absolutely love it and swear by it. I actually only met someone last week who said he wouldn't go to WordPress if you paid him. So
That's pretty cool.
Not that I'm saying anything bad about WordPress. I'm just saying he's such a big fan of Joomla.
That they wouldn't move at all. That's really good to hear.
Yeah, so I think the future of Joomla is bright.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me for the 100th episode of the podcast, and congratulations, you've cemented your voice into the 100th episode and onto the Joomla Beat podcast.
I'm not sure whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Thank you for having me.
We'll see you in the next 100 episodes.
See you.
Awesome. Thanks, Shayla.
Thank you, Peter.
Shayla's pretty hardcore. Coding from scratch?
Yeah, line by line. And using Cold Fusion.
And did you say Dreamweaver as well?
Yep.
Wow, I remember those days.
You still have clients that use Dreamweaver?
I have one, and I'm trying very hard to get him to move over to Joomla, but he is just so attached to his website.
Well, I think the design of that is still relevant.
It is relevant, but at the same time, it's really outdated as well. But he's just so in love with it. He's holding on to it. It's been... When did we design that? I think 2006?
6 or 7.
Yeah.
Very, very early on. And the budget wasn't enough for us to do a CMS-based website. So hence it was in Joomla. It's got Flash on it. It's not responsive.
God, it does. It does have Flash. Yep, no, not responsive.
Yeah.
I have to update it because you won't touch it.
No, I had enough. I remember once we let Shannon on it, and he's never used Dreamweaver before.
Really? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
See, this is where we all started out.
Oh, boy. Yeah, the whole Dreamweaver templating and theming.
And tables. And
yeah, it's a completely different beast. And when you haven't seen it or haven't touched it in like 8 years, and you come back to go, whoa.
Yeah, banging your head against the wall.
How does this work?
Yeah.
And for those people that don't know, what you do is you set up a template, like a main master template, which is a DWT file, a Dreamweaver template file. And that's like your main Joomla theme. And then from that, you generate pages from it. So anytime you update the theme and press save, all of your pages that use that template will get automatically updated as well, which is pretty cool. I was
going to say, isn't that a good thing?
Yeah, it was pretty smart in how it did it. And then you had to physically upload all those files on there, but it had like a special management tool. So it would know which files, so if you're updating the About page and you've just hit save, it automatically would upload your About page and all the assets attached to it. So all the images and all the downloads or anything that was related to that page up onto the server. It was actually pretty smart and such a simplest way to do it. But somehow we got a lot more complex and started building databases, but the website's got a lot bigger as well.
And now Flash is thankfully being weaned out.
Well, if you didn't hear, or if other people didn't hear, Flash has a massive security vulnerability at the moment. So you should actually be going and uninstalling Flash physically from your computers. Adobe,
is this the end of Flash, do you think?
It is definitely the end of Flash.
I actually really enjoyed those flashy websites back in the day.
They were fantastic.
They were, but what frustrated me was actually working in Flash. That was just one of the programs that I just could not enjoy using. It frustrated me so much.
Oh, yeah, working with the timelines. There's a bit of coding behind it.
I found it so difficult and so tedious.
It is tedious. It is very, very tedious. And thankfully, we don't need to work with it.
But some of the websites were just genius, so weren't they?
Yeah. And there's a whole new trend.
So imaginative.
Very, very creative. I remember this website called toadvanced.net or .com. To Advance. That was the company name. They're still around and they're still making amazing Flash websites.
Wow.
It's just really unfortunate that now Flash...
They're just not supported.
No. It's, on any of the Apple handheld devices, it's not supported. On
Google Chrome and Firefox, they're dropping Flash support now too.
And what's the deal with that? Why did Apple just decide we're against Flash?
From my understanding, it was performance issues.
Right.
Performance issues
just loading
on their
times
devices.
and that sort of thing? Or?
Oh, not just loading times, but their devices would burn up with the amount of CPU that Flash uses.
Right.
So you'd get an overheating handheld device playing Angry Birds that was made in Flash.
Right.
And the other reason I heard was because of their ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So don't play the Flash game on your browser, download the app.
Right.
And we'll charge you $1.99 for it. So,
it was very self-serving.
Very much so, but, you know, Steve Jobs, from my understanding, really didn't like Flash. And it showed in every last single product.
So interesting that one person is just anti-something and then it just gets wiped out.
Well, I think it had a bit of foresight there, because if you look now, Flash is being phased out. Yeah, were they the initiator of it?
Well, I think so.
No,
I would definitely say they were.
I don't know. Anyway, let's play this next message I got here.
Hi, this is Jacques Renske from Cape Town, South Africa. Baie geluk met die 100ste Joomla Beat potgooi. Congratulations with the 100th Joomla Beat podcast.
So that was Jacques Kretensky, if you couldn't hear that, from South Africa. Could you tell he was talking in Afrikaans?
A little bit, yeah.
It was saying something. Yeah, it was in translation. It was congratulations.
Ah, right.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. So he was one of the first people that I met when I went to the Joomla World Conference in New York, and I got to sit down with him and actually find out what he did for the Joomla project, and had a really good chat and really good time with him over there.
I would have to say the South African accent is one of the most interesting accents.
Yeah, I try and pick people with it. Like, are you South African? And they're, oh, no, I'm German, but I've been living in Australia for 15 years, so it's a little bit of a mixed accent. It's like,
It does sound mixed, though, doesn't it? It's very unique, but it sounds like a mixture of...
It is mixed.
Yeah.
But if you look at the history of South Africa, it was...
Well, there's the Dutch that were there.
Exactly. And the English. And then the locals that were there. So it's a big...
blend.
Mix and blend of all those languages and cultures.
Fascinating.
Very fascinating indeed. But anyway, the next person I have up here is Tessa Mero. So Tessa, thanks for joining me back on the podcast. It's been a little while since I've actually spoken to you as well.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. I'm very excited, and yeah, it's been a long time.
So for those people that don't know you, you work on the leadership team at the moment. You're a part of PLT. You're a part of the extension directory team. Have I missed anything?
That's it when it comes to Joomla. And also I organize the Seattle Joomla user group. So those are the three main things I do for Joomla.
Just add them to the list. But in the beginning, how did you actually discover Joomla, and how did you come across it?
Well, initially I knew what a CMS was from college back in the days. I was actually hired as a web developer for a company while I was still in school. That was from applying for a bunch of jobs just to see if I can get a job while still in school, and happened to land a job. So I'm like, darn it, now I have to work full time. But yeah, I learned how to work with a CMS, and I needed a quick platform to work with at the company. And after a lot of research, finding the best solution for the company, I realized Joomla was the best option. I talked to a lot of people to figure this out. And the day I chose to use the Joomla platform, my company sent me on a 2-day training session with OS Training, who happened to be in town. And a month later, they sent me to New York City for a Joomla Day conference. The rest was history from there.
Sounds like perfect timing. OS Training happened to be where you were, and a Joomla conference just around the corner as well. It's really convenient.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, after posting on the OS Training forums for about 2 months of asking questions, I started answering everyone else's questions because I learned so quickly from doing this full time.
You became the pro.
And they offered me a job, so I did that as a part-time job for 2 years, working on the OS training forums and answering Drupal, WordPress, and Joomla questions.
That's so cool. I actually didn't know that about you.
Oh, that's great.
So it sounds like you actually do have a good breadth of experience across all three major CMSs. So what made you choose Joomla, considering that you've had experience and understanding across all three of them?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say I have an understanding with all three. Most of it, for the other two CMSs, it was mostly researching and installing and finding out what their issue is and mimicking it and trying to see where they went wrong. So it's really troubleshooting that I'm pretty good at, and I can learn anything within an hour and figure things out pretty quickly. And sometimes people don't have the patience for that, and that's why they pay for support. Why do I use Joomla over other platforms? For me, it's really hard to ever imagine using any other platform, especially at this point in my life. Even if I decided on a better option later for particular projects, I could never stop using Joomla. And every CMS has its own perks, so I wouldn't say there really isn't like a better CMS option. It really depends on the type of website you are building. Like, for example, a lightweight blog website, I'd always recommend other people to use WordPress. And as for me, I started a blog site, and as much as I wanted to use WordPress, it would be hypocritical for me to have a WordPress blog when I'm heavily involved with Joomla. They make fun of me.
Yeah. I found that when I started the Joomla Beat podcast website, and the first thing that people checked was, okay, every last other podcast is using WordPress. Is he using WordPress or is he using Joomla? And they said, he's actually using Joomla for this. Interesting.
Good, I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I didn't want to get caught out there. A Joomla podcast using a WordPress site? It doesn't sound quite right.
That would be funny. I would make fun of you too, like lightheartedly,
Thanks,
of course.
Tessa.
And one more thing. Another reason why I would not use another platform is after my first Joomla conference and having the opportunity to meet all the people behind the software, I knew I belonged with the community, and it really amazes me how committed the Joomla community is to making our software better. And I've always wanted to be part of it, and I have been for a very, very long time. And it would just it wouldn't feel right if I moved on to another CMS community. It would almost feel like I'm cheating in a way. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. I know what you mean. So is there anything cool that you're working on at the moment using Joomla?
Well, with Joomla, my primary focus is contributing to the Joomla community. Among other things, I work with other communities too. But I do a little side work on the side with Joomla sites. I recently built a really cool user application in Joomla that integrates with a membership system. And although it's done, I'm still adding a few changes here and there. And actually, I'm working on some bug fixes today.
So is this membership system using some sort of third-party API, or is it purely built in Joomla?
It's a Joomla component, and I'm using a custom application builder, which is also a Joomla component. So I'm kind of working with fields through both and combining data and information. It's cool stuff.
Cool. Awesome. Now, a little bit in your intro, I mentioned that you're part of the production leadership team, formerly part of Open Source Matters. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
I formerly was in the board of directors, and I was proudly on the team. And I planned on sticking with them. And I got a email from the production leadership team after I applied, probably a year ago. A year previous to being hired, and they asked if I was interested in joining the team they looked through my application, and I know they've been bringing in one person here and there over a period of time rather than hiring a bunch of people at once so people can get trained and used to the team. So it was an opportunity I could not pass on. So I'm very happy about this. I'm very excited to be part of the production leadership team.
Is that where you feel you're most, I wouldn't say useful, but your contributions are best placed?
I actually do more work on the Joomla extensions directory than I do for the production leadership team. Mm-hmm. I have a specific role in the PLT. Okay. One of them is developer outreach, and I've been working on a project where I'm building a sub-team. I haven't started yet. I'm still getting that, getting feedback from other teams. So, yeah, I've been helping with speaking engagements with developer communities and have a lot of conferences to go to. So the great thing about developer conferences is if you are speaking there, they pay for your whole trip. So the great thing is not having to use, a lot of PLT budget or Joomla budget to be able to go to these events and promote Joomla.
That is very cool. I didn't realize that was happening, but it makes perfect sense now with some of the communications that we've been having.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
And so it's different with Joomla conferences because of how small the budget is. It's really hard for speakers to be paid unless they're keynote speakers. So, yeah, it's very shocking for Joomla community speakers. What?
we get paid for this? Interesting. It's a bit different. Is there any other aspects that you're contributing or anything you'd like to elaborate on?
Yes. And we haven't really elaborated with the Joomla extensions directory, which is led by Matt. And it's a great team. We've been expanding the team. We started out with, a few people with no structure to it. And about, a year and a half ago, maybe, Matt restructured the team and made job titles and sub-teams, several sub-teams within our team, and had sub-team managers. And I had the opportunity to accept, I think we had about 60 applications to join these positions, and I had the opportunity to hire on people and bring people in. And, because this is a volunteer role, some didn't work out, and, I'm slowly replacing people that have the time to commit. Some people are very talented and amazing and don't always have the time to give. People have work priorities. People have family priorities. So I definitely, have no problem with that. So we're very transparent. We are very open with each other. And since 2 months ago, our team have been publishing meeting reports. So that way the community can see every single little thing the JED team is doing throughout the month and what we've accomplished. So I'm very excited about that.
I had seen a blog post go up featuring a whole bunch of new team members on there. Is that what you're referring to with all the new people that are coming in?
Well, I think I've only mentioned one person or one or two people in the last meeting report.
Yep.
One person I brought in and created a sub-team for quality control. I've noticed a lot of support tickets on the Joomla extension directory talking about how I installed this extension, but it absolutely does nothing, but it installs, but it does nothing. Or some will have so many issues that it's unusable. So I brought in someone to investigate these listings, and so we can unpublish it. Our process before is, we don't really have time to look into these issues. We have so many other things going on, so we leave that stuff behind. So we do have even larger goals for quality control, but at the moment, our main focus is having a bug-free JED 3.0 system that we had released recently because of we have several volunteer developers that are going to be working on our Jira issue tracker. So we have a lot of stuff that's going to be going on soon, and we haven't had the developers start working on it yet. We're still trying to get the volunteer agreement, contributor agreement approved. And once that's approved through the board of directors, we can start improving the software. So I'm very excited for this. And one thing that the community doesn't understand is we are listening to them. I've heard so many suggestions and so many and endless complaints, and I wish I can have this all done now so everyone's happy, but I just hope they're patient with the JED team because we're going to make it wonderful.
Well, it's good to know that a lot of things in the background are happening to actually improve the JED and make it better. I know a lot of people's livelihoods and businesses depend on it for traffic and sales of extensions and pro versions or upsells or whatever their business model is. So awesome work there, Tessa. So last but not least, my last question on my list here is, what do you see in the future for Joomla? I asked some other people, what do you see in 10 years? But that's almost impossible to predict. So let's say the next year or two, what do you see in the future for the project?
Well, at this point, it's really hard to say because of the structural change going on. We don't know exactly what's going to be happening. I don't know if all the teams are going to be collapsing and people get upset and not want to be part of it anymore, or if we're going to be keeping all of our valuable people and having them continue to work on what we're working on now. I do see things improving and becoming better, and it's really a pleasure being on the production leadership team and being part of the decisions being made for the future Joomla releases. And the Joomla 4 architecture team and the production leadership team are hard at work to make sure we build a software release that people are happy with. And I can see that we see our end users as priority, and it's very important that people are happy. Just as the JED 3.0 system, we listen to our users, and it's very important to us.
So where can people find out more information about what the architecture group is doing and what is being planned for Joomla 4, or what they're trying to scope out, what it should be like?
Well, first off, you can be part of the architecture team by contacting Marco Dings on the PLT. And you can also see any news and updates from the PLT. I think it's developer@joomla.org. Don't quote me on that. I have to look it up. Might be developer or production.
I think it's developer.
Developer.joomla.org.
Yeah.
And we always release newsletters about what we're doing. Also, we post our team reports whenever we meet every single month for about 2 hours, and we post our meeting report just like the Joomla Extensions Directory team. So you can see that on the volunteers.joomla.org site. So we take transparency very seriously, and it's made a big difference. So it makes a lot of people happy when they get to see exactly what we're doing, and it makes it so we can see more feedback from others and what others want.
Fantastic, Tessa. It's awesome to see how much you're contributing to the project itself and how you're using Joomla in everyday life. And it's awesome to have you back on the podcast again too.
Thank you very much.
So like Tessa said, if you're interested in joining the architect So like Tessa said, if you're interested in joining the Joomla architecture team or the UX team, you still can. It's still early days, and you can contact the right people. I'll put links up to that in the show notes so you can help contribute and form the future of Joomla 4.
Exciting times. Join the dream team.
Yeah, it kind of is. It kind of is. It's like, what can you dream up of Joomla 4 and how can it be built and what will the future of the web be? And that's where these people are taking Joomla at the moment.
Taking into account all the web trends as well.
Yeah, and not just all the cool trends and all the things that are happening, but also the past things that we've learnt from like migrations of websites and the pain points there and changing too much code and not doing backwards compatibility for Joomla extensions. So it's a lot of learning that we've done as a community overall over the years, which will help shape Joomla 4 and the future, which is really, really cool. Shall I play another message?
Sure.
All right, what am I up to here?
Go on.
Hi, this is James Morrell from Seblod, and on behalf of the whole team here, we want to say a big congratulations to the Joomla Beat podcast for reaching 100 episodes. Well done, great job, and we can't wait to listen to 100 more.
How's that for love?
I know. So that was James Morrell, and he used to be in Brisbane, a fellow Australian, but he's moved over. He got stolen by an American.
Oh,
yeah,
they're always
Vermont
stealing
now.
our talent, aren't
they? Yeah. But he's doing some pretty cool stuff. He's launched his own startup. I can't remember what it was called. Oh, so bad of me. But it was like a startup where you can find music sounds and music producers or hire musical equipment. Christ, I even got that wrong. James, I promise I'll post a link up to it in the show notes so everyone
you
can
have
find
to
out
now.
what I'm doing. Yeah. I think he actually used Seblod to build all of that. I hadn't had a good look into it, but the actual concept of the thing is actually pretty cool. Anyway, interviews.
You will have to do him justice now.
I know. So, Isidro, thank you for joining me. Now, for those people that don't know you, can you just give everyone a little bit of an introduction of who you are and how you discovered Joomla?
Okay, so thanks for the invitation to participate here. I'm really happy to talk to you again after a few months, and definitely happy to be here and put my beat on this. I'm not sure what you're preparing, but I'm sure it will be big and nice. So it's great being here.
It's a big party.
Yeah, sure. And for those who don't know me, my name is Isidro Vaquero, and I'm from Spain. And I probably what people are more interested in is in my involvement with Joomla. So, I've been involved in the community for quite a few years now, since 2008, I think. I started being more involved in different parts of the project, initially in the forums and the extinct J people. And I was in the community leadership team together, having fun with you and the rest of the crew for about 4 years. Today I'm mostly involved in local stuff in the local community. Not only Spain, mainly Spain, but also in the Spanish-speaking community, which it's like a parallel community. We have a lot of places where people speak and share and contribute, but there's a big barrier for Spanish-speaking people, and in general, all Spanish-speaking countries are very reluctant to learn other languages. It's not like in Central Europe, for example. So people look for content and stuff in Spanish. So there's a lot of people who is not aware of the big international community. Fortunately, there's more and more people joining it, but still a lot of the big majority of the Spanish-speaking people is out of the global community, and they need some well, I don't know, some sources or places to be able to share and contribute to Joomla. So I have plenty of work there. So, and it's also a bit less energy consuming for me because of the language. So great. That's mostly what I do in Joomla. And well, professionally, I've been working as a Joomla freelancer. I'd say 99% Joomla based.
99. What's the 1%?
Pure HTML, static pages maybe.
Yeah.
So no other platforms, to be honest. Well, I've recently started managing a WordPress site as a user, not as a user, but I mean not as a webmaster, just as an editor, right? Contributing content and sharing what or editing what other authors provide to the site. But I mean 99% Joomla.
All right.
So but like 3 years and a half ago, I joined 6u.net, the Sobi Pro extension creators, and I'm still working with them and pretty happy there with Radek, Sigrid, and Slavek. And well, that's me. I hope it's enough for an introduction. I can speak for ages about any topic, so please just tell me enough when it's enough.
No. It's always good to hear your story, and feel free, like let it all out.
Okay.
Let's hear what you need to say.
Just a friendly warning, because otherwise we can speak for 3 hours and that's it.
Thanks. So, what was the moment when you actually found Joomla?
Well, I found Joomla during the fork from Mambo because I was involved in a local community, so to speak. It was in the at the university, in the engineering school. We had a community for all the alumni from the school, and to share I don't know anything related with the studies, ideas, comments, questions, everything, and downloads of materials related with the subjects. We started using PHP Nuke, if I'm not wrong. We switched to Mambo from there, and while we were using Mambo, the fork took place, and well, we moved to Joomla, and that was my first real experience. So I can say I lived it as a user directly. All the migration from Mambo, which was pretty easy because Joomla 1.0 was mostly Mambo with another name and a few extras. So it was not traumatic at all. And from there, my involvement or my relationship with Joomla has kept growing and growing year after year, because actually I decided to do web for a living. So it meant my bye-bye to the engineering, which I don't regret at all. So,
which is very cool. Was it. So Joomla changed your life there. You went from engineering to building websites now. Do you think you would ever think or ever consider going back to an engineering career?
Well, it depends. Not to the very same engineering as I was doing. I was studying. I'm not sure if there's an equivalent in the English word, but here in Spain we have telecommunications engineering, which is kind of electrical engineering focused on transmission signals and all that. And after thinking about it over the years, the part I really enjoyed from there was the technological part and the computers part. So probably I could consider getting back to computer science, computer engineering, but probably to get more knowledge to apply it on my current web adventure.
Yes.
But not to the regular engineering that I was studying by those days. That for sure, because I have many classmates from that time, and we meet from time to time, and they tell me what they do, and I don't regret at all having switched. I don't like that, so it was very good for me.
Yeah,
probably.
Plus, this type of career gives you a lot more freedom and flexibility too, compared to something like engineering, where you do have to work with a big company or in a firm of some sort.
Yeah, probably with I don't know, with when I'm 50 years old or 60, and this schoolmate or classmate from university may have some big positions in big IT companies, but after selling their youth, maybe, because nowadays, at least that's what I hear and what I see from these people working. Young engineers working in big firms or traditional engineering firms, it's a kind of slave work. It requires a lot of your time.
It does.
It's very, very low salary, and low compared with what you are supposed to be doing. And I prefer having that same salary, maybe, but with the freedom that the web provides, and there's always the possibility of growing and doing bigger things in the web, and you can switch from different technologies if you like that. So I don't regret at all, really.
Very cool, and I'm glad you made that decision as well. So is there anything cool that you can share that you're working with at the moment around Joomla?
Not really at this moment, because
I know you are.
I've been all right. Not building new, but I'm working on Joom Gouts, which I discovered after creating the website with the people I'm doing this. That gout it's an illness in English, which I wasn't aware of. It's a word that comes from Joomla and Hangouts. So we pick Joom and the Gouts from the end of Hangouts, and that's it. It's a bi-weekly video cast about Joomla. It's about an hour and a half of different topics, and in Spanish, because as I said before, there's a big need for content and distribution of Joomla stuff in Spanish.
Yep.
So we decided to do it. It's completely community focused. We do it for free, and we get zero incomes. We have no sponsors. We just do it because we like it. And yeah, but I thought in the beginning that you were asking if I'm working on something new, on something to come, and it's not the case. I've been really involved in last local Joomla Day here in my town, in my city, in Seville, and that consumed all my available time and energy, because it's really tiring organizing a Joomla Day, even a bit small one like this one. We had 120 seats in the room. Finally, we had like 70 or 80 attendees, more or less. I can't remember the exact number. So it's quite small. We're not talking about hundreds of people, but still it's really energy and time consuming. So nothing new on the works right now. I'm just recovering from that, and maybe after that I'll start with something different. But yeah, we have this Joom Gouts side, which is, we have over 50 programs so far, I think. We've been there for 3 years, so we had quite a lot of videos, and each of them, as I said, an hour and a half. So probably like 60 or 70 hours of video about Joomla. So we're pretty proud about that. We have lots of followers. So lots. People interested in Joomla in Spanish are really happy with it and with the way we do it. And well, it's nice. We are still, actually we're having our next program next week with Aníbal from Exley. Probably you know him. He is also part of the JET team.
Yes. Very cool. I'm just looking at the website. It's very nicely put together, using Zoo as well. Is that right?
Yeah.
Thought so.
We have a couple of Zoo specialists in the team.
I see.
And so that's all for them. And the first one, cool. Raising the hand, gets the job.
So what do we build this in? Me, and I'll do it in Zoo. So I guess that's how it works.
Yeah, basically. We need that. Okay, you do it. Don't tell me how you are going to do it, as long as
you do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it looks nice, really.
Yeah. I'll make sure I post the links up so everyone else can check out the website and see what you guys are up to. But yeah, you're doing a lot of cool things. You're doing the Joom Gouts. You're doing Joomla Days as well. So they are very cool things, and like you said, very time-consuming things as well. I've had more time to do it since I left the leadership, which is really time-consuming. Yes.
So it's just some people thought that I was just going away, but not. It was just getting focused on a different place, and maybe that's it.
Yeah. I find when you volunteer all that time, you have to find somehow or some way that you get fulfillment or reward from that. And I guess when you're working with your own local community and it's close-knit and very close to you, you can feel that, I guess, return or the feedback or the feeling a little bit stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big plus one for spending more time with the local communities, because the return, as you said, is faster and bigger. And sometimes that really helps.
Yeah, you can feel it straight away, and you can see the impact, and because you're so close to it, you can see things change, and etc., etc. Very cool, Isidro.
Oh, thanks.
Now, last but not least, what do you see the future for Joomla? I know predicting the future is hard, but at least in the next year or two, how do you see things happening?
Well, I must say that my crystal ball is under maintenance right now.
A little foggy. Needs to be polished.
Yeah, but it's right now, I think it's not only Joomla, but the web as a whole is a bit in a big crossroad, because mobile is not anymore an option. It's the big part of the web right now, and this is changing quite a lot the ecosystem where Joomla lives. So, to be honest, I'm not. I have no idea where we are going, and well, also with all the changes we are trying to implement in the project, and the last few releases have been a bit chaotic from my point of view. It's not. I'm not pretending to bash nobody. Just trying to let me finish, so you'll see where I'm going to. Yeah. It's just the release managers changed, I think, in all of the last few releases. So it's also the features that were implemented were in most cases not the ones that were planned beforehand or announced. So it's difficult predicting where I think Joomla is going. What I can say for sure is that there's still people, really good people involved and doing stuff and pushing and trying to keep this project on track. So I don't know. It will depend a lot of big changes. How these big changes in the internet worldwide finally go, because there are some big actors pushing to make their idea of the web the winner, the one that we'll have in maybe a couple of years. But it's difficult to predict because for what I said, it's gonna be mobile. Whatever it is, it's gonna be mobile, and the regular Joomla website that we know today won't be anymore in 2 years. It must be something completely different, because otherwise it will be like a relic, right? It will be like, I don't know, like an Spectrum 128. But we have the chance to change that, and well, actually Joomla already has some good foundations to get adapted to this new reality. Who knows? Maybe the web in the future will be based on HTML5 and CSS3 and not so big change as others are trying to implement. So, well, it depends a lot on the next few months on what we do as a project or as a community also, because we can also contribute. We can. How was that from John Fitzgerald Kennedy? Don't think what Joomla can do for you, but what you can do for Joomla. So it's more real. That's more true nowadays than ever, I think, because in the end, Joomla will be what we, the users, the community, want it to be. Doesn't matter if you are contributing directly to the code, to an official infrastructure, or you're just providing innovation and doing things in the Joomla ecosystem. Whatever it is, it will come out from all this as a whole, not from small parts of it. So I hope this more or less answers your question. Or
It sure does. Yeah, it is very hard to predict, and the web is constantly changing all the time. But you're right. If we can, as a community, shape and direct Joomla to follow that future, or even shape that future of the web, it'll be a very interesting place. And yeah, we do have to evolve, we do have to grow, we do have to change, or else Joomla would be that platform that you used to use to make just plain websites. And the webs change.
In my case, that would be a big problem because of that 99%. So I'm completely involved in trying to put my bit on Joomla succeeding or surviving to all these big changes, and hopefully becoming still the good platform, the reliable platform that it's been for the last few years. And well, I'm all for it. I have a lot in this game, so I want to make it the best possible in the future.
I think we all do. And thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, Isidro. It's great to have you, especially on this 100th episode as well. So finally good to have you on the show. And keep up all the good work.
Oh, thanks. And same for you. And congrats for this 100 episode. And I really hope we'll meet in the second 100 one. So
it's a long
congratulations.
Time. We'll meet again. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. So So, Ken, how did you discover Joomla? What was your process or journey into stumbling across what Joomla is?
Yeah, great question. So in 2005, I worked for a marketing company in Kansas City, Missouri, which is in the U.S., and we were tasked with building a large website for a hospital. And in doing that, we were trying to decide whether or not we wanted to build our own CMS, whether or not we wanted to leverage something that's already out there. And a coworker came up with a CMS called Mambo, and I played with it a little bit. I had a friend who built a music site using Mambo, I think a year before, and so he told me how cool it was. So I checked it out. Didn't give it much thought after that until we had to build this site. And so after digging into it, we realized that it would work great. And so that was in March or April of 2005. So fast forward August, September, that's when the Mambo Joomla split happened. We started playing with Joomla internally a little bit because we weren't sure if the Joomla community or the Mambo community would jump over to the Joomla community. So we were a little hesitant to jump ship on Mambo at first. But after we knew that the Joomla was the way to go, we started converting everything over.
Awesome. Now, did you play with any other platforms at that time when you were investigating what CMS to use?
Yeah, so we looked at building our own, which we really didn't want to do because of the timeline.
Building your own is kind of like a rite of passage back then. You were supposed to build your own CMS. Everyone tried to.
Exactly. Everyone tries it, and in the end, you fail miserably because your framework, the framework underneath the platform, underneath the CMS, in haste and on a whim, you're not going to architect that as well as you should. So unless you've got a lot of time, it's really not a way to go. But we did look at Drupal and WordPress, and we decided that Mambo was the way to go.
Fantastic. So after all those years, you've been doing lots of things. Is there anything cool that you're doing at the moment with Joomla?
Yeah, good question. So as far as the code or the project?
Could be either. Like people said, the volunteering or organizing Joomla days, all the way to building this amazing sites with using REST APIs and integrating Joomla with it. So everyone's given different examples.
Sure. Yeah. Actually, many years ago, I built an API that would allow someone to have a Flash website because they insisted on Flash. This was before the iPhone, but Flash. I built an API that allowed the client to update their site via a Joomla administrator, but the front end was all Flash. That was many years ago. So, so in my work, I work with a lot of clients, and so right now I'd say my largest project is working on sort of a find a doctor, find a facility project that imports lots and lots of data from 6 different CSV files, and it all has to come together and be responsive, fast searching, so lots of indexes, lots and lots of load testing, multiple search criteria. So that one, I wouldn't say it's overly complicated. It's just lots of data to work with, which is a lot of fun. From a project point of view, I'm on the transition team, so we're currently looking at how we're going to basically it's a reorg into the new leadership structure that was voted upon by the leadership teams many months ago. And so we don't really get to decide how to do it. We just have to implement it. And so there's a team of about 8 of us that are working on that right now.
That is very cool, and quite a big role or a big task to actually do for the community. It's, I think, a long time coming. I think a lot of people know it's coming. But that last bit of the transition into the structure is going to be very interesting, and I'm glad you're a part of the team.
Yeah, thanks. The idea of a CLT and a PLT, that was intended to be temporary. for better or for worse.
A temporary for 4 or 3 years?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, awesome. So I know that's one of the parts that you're part of the community now and how you're contributing back to Joomla. But dating back a little bit, you used to be on the leadership teams as well. Is that correct?
I did. I was on CLT back in, I think, just 2009. So before that, and even today, I'm still a global moderator on the forums. I've done Google Summer of Code twice. Yeah, I did it twice. I had Ram Tripathi as my mentee, as my student, and I was his mentor, and he made it so easy for me because that is one smart kid. He is the one who rewrote the template manager, and I think 2.5 is when we could do overrides from the back end. That was his Google Summer of Code project, and that
was his.
That was the Google Summer of Code project, and it's awesome.
Yeah, there's so many occasions when I need to change something quickly. And it's like, all right, okay, I guess I need your FTP access, or if the site source control, I need access to that, and I have to work through the workflow. But with that template manager, you can cheat and just jump in there and do your quick change.
Exactly, it's great.
It is very cool. So you've done quite a bit for the community, and I have to thank you for that. But last but not least, what do you see the future of Joomla being? It's always hard to predict, but where do you see it going?
It is. So you, being a business owner yourself, I know whenever I was on the leadership team, I tried to push for running Joomla more like a small business. So I'm sure you've heard that a camel is a horse designed by committee. And so Joomla should be run like a small business. It just kind of makes sense because we are at that level now. We're not just a couple of programmers sitting in their basement pounding away at code hoping somebody likes it. I mean, there are many, many people and businesses that depend on this code for their livelihood. And it's a big responsibility to put on not just developers, but moderators and translation team people, documentation people, just all these working groups all coming together to provide this product. Having Joomla work as a small business or with that mindset, I believe will make us much, much more effective. And I also believe that this new leadership structure will definitely take us closer to that.
Very interesting. I never really thought of it like that, but yes, you're quite right. Being able to actually drive it as a business is where you're giving fantastic customer support via the forums and providing support for the actual product itself. Yeah, never thought of it like that, but it's very true. Thank you for your kind insights there, Ken. It's finally good to actually have you on the podcast, and I think I'll see you in India. So TJ, how did you discover Joomla back in the day when you very first used it?
I discovered Joomla through my hosting provider who had a Fantastico install that they offered.
You gotta love Fantastico.
That's what got me into Joomla. Yep.
And for those that don't know Fantastico, it's a one-click installer that you find in cPanel-based servers, and it basically allows you to just click it and it installs everything for you, the database and the files, and sets everything up. So Fantastico is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a great introduction to Joomla. I mean, obviously I had no clue what to do once it was installed, but it was awesome to see I had a website just like that when not having any knowledge at all of what a content management system was at that time. I had no clue. And so, yeah, clicking a button and having a website was like magic,
So in being able to
fire up Joomla in just one click. Did you play around with any other platforms like that as well?
Well, actually, the first one I did was Mambo, and then I came back to Joomla, and then I also did the same with WordPress.
So you played with WordPress as well for a bit.
Yeah, I tried it out. I couldn't quite wrap my brain around how to do it. At that time, templating was what I was most interested in, because I really was interested in making my website look the way I wanted it to look. And with Joomla, I found it really simple to do, and with WordPress, I just couldn't make it happen.
I see, and that's what made you stick with Joomla. You actually understood how the templating worked.
Yeah, I would say that's the number one thing that made me decide to stick with Joomla versus going the WordPress route is I could make things look the way that I wanted them to look pretty easily.
Very cool. Now, did you have any experience with making websites, or did you just throw yourself into it when working for this website and trying to build it?
I had a little bit of experience with static HTML. I had messed around a little bit. I used Dreamweaver at that time to kind of help me understand how to structure an HTML document, and then I kind of started doing a little bit of handwritten HTML stuff, but nothing ever really too deep. And then when CSS came around, kind of started playing around with using style sheets with the HTML, but I never really building websites wasn't my job. It was more of like a hobby, something I was just trying to do. And at my place of employment was a nonprofit organization. It was a school for adults with developmental disabilities. And at that time, I did mostly the theater stuff there, and we wanted a website. So I volunteered and jumped in, and that's how I found content management systems and Joomla, and the rest is history, as they say.
Is that website still online?
No, it's not actually. It's funny you ask. I every once in a while I go back and I check and see if it's still up. They've changed. I don't know what they're using now. Actually, my habit of checking source code on just about every website I go to is it's something I always do. But my RAM that's in my brain is not quite what's sufficient anymore. So I don't remember the last time.
Okay, very good. So you got thrown into the deep end there and volunteered yourself into making the website. So is there anything cool like at the moment that you're working on that you're allowed to share?
At the tail end of managing a project that we did for a client. I can't quite say what the client's name is just yet because they're getting ready to release. But we did a full mobile app built entirely in Joomla as a Joomla component, and it was my first experience doing that. It has a website, obviously, the web part of the app, and mobile. It's got wrappers for Android and iOS, and I think it's going to be a fun service once it gets released, and it was a pretty exciting project to be a part of.
That's really interesting. You guys are using Joomla to power mobile applications. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. It's been through all the beta testing and internal testing and whatnot. So I'm excited to see it out in the wild and see how well it does. I have no reason to think that it's not going to do as well as it's intended.
Very
cool. But I'm excited to see it. Yeah.
Very cool. When that's released, I would love to get some links and see how it actually works and how it interfaces with Joomla. I would love to see a little bit more information about that. If you guys are allowed to share.
Yeah, definitely. That would be fun to share.
So that's some of the work that you do at Red Web, right?
Yeah, I do some project management. I also do a little bit of support management and product management for the Red component side of things. And then I do a little bit of sales and, kind of have a few different hats I wear there.
Very, very cool. So that's your day-to-day life type of things and what you do to earn a living using Joomla. But do you give back to the Joomla community at all? Like, is there something that you volunteer more of your time to keep the Joomla project running?
Yeah, for the last couple of years, I've helped out as part of the Joomla World Conference Committee. So I get to help plan those and put those on, which is a great event, and it's a lot of fun to be a part of. And just as of a couple of weeks ago, a few weeks now, I was elected to be a part of the transition team for the leadership, the new leadership structure. So those are two areas that I'm currently active in.
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah, the transition team is that's quite. It's an honor and also quite terrifying. It's a good challenge, and thankfully, I'm one member of a fantastic team of people. So it's going to be challenging, but also very rewarding, and it is an honor to be a part of that team.
Yeah, I think you have the skills and experience. And I think the patience even to be a part of that team and transition Joomla to its new structure.
Well, thank you, Pete. It's a good thing.
So in having this experience in working on some upcoming and emerging technology and using Joomla to power mobile apps, and also being a part of this transition team which is changing the future of the Joomla leadership internally, what do you see for the future of Joomla, especially in the upcoming few years? I know it's really hard to predict technology because it's constantly changing and new things are being invented. So what do you see for Joomla in like maybe the next year or two?
Yeah, I see. You're right. It is very difficult to predict, especially in the nature of something like our project product. What do we prefer to call it? A project or a product? I've never got that straight. I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's a project.
Yeah. But, there's some exciting work being done on Joomla 4 user experience, which I think any of us that have been around Joomla long enough, or even anybody that's coming in new, can probably pretty quickly see that we can do some things. There's room for improvement on the user experience side. So to me, I've always, coming into Joomla, using it for the template side of things and the visual part of things. User experience is something that I think is a key element to the success of anything. So that's something that is very exciting to me to see some good effort being put into. So I could see a nice user experience facelift or update for Joomla coming up, and also on the web services side of things. I think with I don't know what the stats are nowadays on the number of people that use their mobile devices for accessing information, but I think it's pretty darn high these days. So
it's off the top of my head, it's surpassed desktop usage, especially in emerging countries like Nigeria, where people's first experience of the internet is actually on their phones.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's fantastic and exciting too. So I think, with that in mind, I think it's very obvious that we need to put some focus on that. And I think there's focus being put on that with the web services side of things being worked on. Unfortunately, I've not had the time or energy or ability to be able to keep track on I've kind of seen some things being worked on and seen some conversations along those lines, but I imagine that there's some of the brilliant minds who develop our CMS for us are focusing on those very things, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think I saw a post that said that how RESTful API was going to be integrated into like Joomla 3.6.
Yeah.
I could be wrong there. I may have the numbers incorrect, but if that was the case, then we may see a full, really dynamic RESTful API be implemented in sometime in 2016, I believe.
Yeah, that'll be fantastic. And in fact, one of our core products that we build, it's not. I don't want to call it a framework because that term has been overused and misused so many times. But it's what we use as the core of a lot of our products. It's called Red Core, and the HAL and RESTful web services layer that we have in that, I think, is partially being adopted, I believe, as a solution to part of that for Joomla.
Yeah, that's what I was under the impression of as well, and it's very good. It's very good stuff. I showed some of our developers that HAL RESTful API, and they just went, "Yep, that's probably the way it should be done."
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, Christian is the lead developer who does our work internally for us on that. Is a fantastic guy and an amazing developer.
Always helps to have good talent around.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, I love the part of my job where I get to go in and be surrounded by brilliant people, because I'm not one of them, right? It's these guys,
of course you are.
I understand quite a bit of stuff, but I can't I'm not a developer. I can hack things. I can certainly break things too, and these guys who write these things have the mindset to be able to write beautiful code it's amazing to me, and I love being surrounded by these guys and gals. I shouldn't say just guys. These guys is such a general term. I mean the men and women who I'm surrounded with.
Yep, I tend to use guys as a collective noun to represent people these days, and I think people are generally just okay, I understand. It's a bit of a colloquialism in the language in Australia anyway.
Yeah.
So it's pretty exciting, but people such as yourself who don't have the technical aspects of writing that code and writing elegant code, do you have skills in other places, such as being able to communicate all that lovely complex code to people that don't understand it, so that when you're trying to sell the product, it actually does sell?
Yeah, that is true. It is. It does help to be able to understand it, to communicate. It's not a bad skill to have.
It's a very good skill to have. Anyway, thank you so much, TJ, for joining me on this 100th episode of the podcast. It's always a pleasure having you around, and thank you for sharing your insights.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor to be a part of your 100th, and congratulations to you, man. That's a fantastic milestone. Thank you for doing this for our community too.
Thanks, TJ, for joining me on the podcast. And I know a lot of people have never experienced that one-click install with Fantastico. Have you ever experienced that, Martina?
So what? One click and it's all installed?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's been around for years. It's actually how I first worked out how to use Joomla as well.
With one click?
Yeah, so you'd sign up to a hosting company of some sort. I think back then I was with Bluehost, and they'll have a control panel with Fantastico, and you can just jump in there, browse the software that you want, click on Joomla, and it will install it for you. And then you give it a go, try it out. If you don't like it, you uninstall it.
Wow.
And then try something else. So yeah, I tried everything that was in Fantastico to find the right thing that I wanted, and Joomla was it for me
that's
too.
how you found Joomla?
Yeah.
That's your story.
I think it was. I think it really was. But no. My story was some people at work. We were working on a proprietary CMS called My Source Matrix, and other people were starting to use. I'm using this WordPress thing, and next week they were using, I'm using this movable type thing. And then next week, I'm using B2B Bulletin. And then another guy will go, whoa.
So you're all just trying to outdo each other.
We really were. Trying to build the best, coolest blog on, the newest, coolest technology. And I ended up on Joomla and I loved it.
Mm.
Yep. other people were on other things. Actually, my first thing was...
And the rest is history.
Yes. And then I ended up at Joomla. All right. One last interview to go, and this is with Jessica Dunbar.
So, Jess, how did you actually discover Joomla? Where was your journey into this Joomla industry and this community that we all love?
So I actually found Joomla off of the GoDaddy one-click install.
GoDaddy? I'll forgive you for that one.
I know, we all learn, right?
No, GoDaddy are great, especially if you want to be a sponsor in the future. GoDaddy are fantastic. Go on,
yes,
sorry.
actually I did some of their usability testing for their new control panel, and it wasn't too bad.
Oh, excellent. I have to try it then.
So I found... and the reason I was looking is I needed something more than basic HTML and CSS to make an advertising site for my local city. And then after the one-click install, it met my needs completely. So I picked Joomla and ended up using a very custom JCal Pro install. From there, I went to Joomla Day Vegas, and I was hooked on the community ever since. I came home very awe-inspired.
Very cool. Did you actually try anything else from that one-click installer when you were investigating a content management system to use?
That's a great question. I do not remember. I'm sure I did.
Yep.
Because I looked at a few of them, but I do not remember what else I clicked on.
Okay, I'm sure you would have played around with some others. But why do you use Joomla then over something else?
So my good old saying is, I'm not dating a CMS. I'm in an open source relationship.
Oh my God. That's a good one.
But I've built multiple websites in the big three content management systems, and different CMSs have their strengths and weaknesses. So I was introduced to Concrete 5 in 2010, and that's what we use pretty much every day at Travera, where I work right now. And I work with the community with them as well. And I speak at word camps quite often. So how I look at Joomla is CMS's to what Aaron Rodgers is to the NFL in the U.S. But I choose Joomla when it fits the client needs, plain and simple.
All right, you're going to have to explain to me who Aaron Rodgers is. I have absolutely no idea.
He's the best quarterback in the National Football League in the U.S.
Ah, I see. Now it kind of makes a better picture there. Okay, I gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, so is there anything really cool that you're working on at the moment using Joomla?
So we just launched the Joomla.org website.
Aha.
Me
the
and
rebuild.
Michael. Yes.
Yes.
So we upgraded from 2.5 to 3, which was a pretty good, big, and exciting project. And I worked with Michael, Babker, Sandra, and Matt. The other one that I continuously work on is the Joomla 3 site.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm about ready to send an email off to you and the rest of CLT to start a discussion about community.joomla.org and getting that upgraded and into the Joomla install, Joomla 3 install.
That is a good idea.
Yeah.
It's been sitting around there for ages. It's a couple of things have been holding it up, but it's a mammoth task. A lot of content to press and upgrade.
Yes, and I actually think Sandra and Matt want to do it. We might do it all manual because there's so many tables that need to be cleaned up, and the content needs to be cleaned up throughout the whole site anyway.
Yeah.
That regardless, we'll be doing so much manual work, we might as well make it easy and do the copy and paste.
You're brave.
Yes.
You're very brave. Okay. I'm sure if you need some volunteers, some people would step in and help you copy and paste some articles over and just do some cleaning up.
Yes. We'll be... we have to figure out the development strategy. So keeping, the live site live and how we're going to do that is the biggest piece.
I find that's probably the hardest thing with a lot of projects, actually. The content editors are hammering away doing content marketing on a live site. Developers are building cool new features and synchronizing data, but they might not synchronize all the content. And when they go deploy, they realize, we're 3 months out of date on content. Whoops.
Yes, I've done that many of times. So I'm a sysadmin in my day job, and I've deployed many sites with old content. I
might have to pick your brains about synchronization of data back and forth between dev, staging, and live servers sometime.
Yeah, we can definitely discuss it. There's a lot of different ways to do it.
Very interesting. All right. So you've rebuilt or helped rebuild 2 of these sites, and you're maintaining the other one, the Joomla 3 site. How else are you contributing to the community?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So I started contributing by speaking at Joomla conferences. That's how I started, just sharing knowledge. And then today I'm involved all over the place on many teams within the community. So I'm a member of the production leadership team, which is responsible for coordinating the production of the CMS and framework, including the code, the documentation, and a lot of the communication. I maintain Joomla.org with Sandra, Matt, and Michael. I also work with our social, marketing, communication, and of course, most importantly, I work with you on the accessibility and UX teams.
Fun. Yes, I have to kick the accessibility team into gear a little bit more and get some more testing done across our sites. It's a tough job, and that's a lot of things you're doing.
Yes, it is.
I guess it keeps you active.
Restarting UX and accessibility are 2 big things that the PLT wants us to focus on. So we're getting there.
Fantastic. So if more people would want to contribute in terms of accessibility into the project, so that's for people that are vision impaired, cognitive impaired, or have difficulty moving or have motor skills impairments, how were you thinking that part of the project was going to take part in the new builds of Joomla?
So the new builds, I'm not 100% sure on how we're going to go with that, but we can fix immediate accessibility issues on the spot, and you don't even need to code. We just need to know what the issues are. And you can open up a new issue, and a developer will do the coding for you.
That's useful.
Future, yes.
That's very useful, yep.
For the future templates, I think our goal is to be 100% with the accessibility guidelines, correct?
That's the goal, that's the idea.
So it will be a lot of work with the UX team and with accessibility and with the developers. So basically right now, if there's anything that cannot be accessible because of for override reasons or whatever in the CMS, we just need to know about it, and we plan to fix it in future versions.
All right, very, very cool. So speaking of the future, how do you see the future for Joomla over the next year or 2? I know it's really hard to predict the future, but what do you think is going to happen?
For sure, I think great things for Joomla 4. I see a lot of collaboration with UX and the architecture teams who just returned from Athens. But more than even Joomla, I think the future of open source is continuing to evolve at a rapid pace. Having the open source code enables developers to work really fast, giving them control and freedom. They don't have to wait for the simple things like license codes. But the other huge thing is security. So I think this will also affect Joomla in a major way. By the end of the decade, there will be about 40 billion devices connected to the internet. So smartphones, smart homes, wearables, everything will be connected. So Joomla will need to support a lot more than just web browsers. So I can see Joomla evolving to be able to start building apps, wearables, and perform into the new emerging screens, along with supporting mobile, social, wearable, the big data, and everything related that way, we're going to run into a mass amount of security challenges. So right now we say my website was hacked. In a couple of years, we'll be complaining about our rice cooker or our crock pot being hacked.
Oh my God. All right. Yep. That could very well be the future. I mentioned previously on the podcast that, more and more people are getting fridges with internet connected in them so they can track what's in their fridge and all sorts of crazy things. So, yeah, one day your fridge might have a virus.
Right. And it very well could happen.
Yes. Could you imagine a fridge sending out malware and spam?
Sure, right. So then people can view things in your house. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, or even those like internet security cameras that you can put in your home. A hacker could get in and reverse that.
Yes.
And actually spy
I suppose, I'm trying to think how they would track on a refrigerator. So if they were tracking how often you are opening and closing, I suppose they could figure out when you're working and not home and figure out a pattern if they wanted to break into your house.
Interesting.
Right?
That's a very sophisticated hacker, just to break into someone's home. or even actually, like, it could be used on the other side where a big corporate hacks into all the fridges and collects all the user data.
Sure.
Interesting.
I mean, we're seeing it now already with the baby monitors and...
Really?
GPSs, yes. So in the U.S., we had a company who does baby monitors, and they hacked in and started shouting obscenities to a baby.
Right. Okay. That's just strange.
It is.
Not that the baby can understand it.
But it's something that we'll have to protect ourselves a little bit more.
Yeah. Very interesting indeed. All right. The future sounds interesting. Sounds scary. But yeah, very exciting at the same time, Jess.
I agree.
All right. Thank you for your time, and thank you for joining me on this 100th episode as well. It's always nice to catch up with you.
You too. You're very welcome. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jessica, for also joining me on the podcast episode. It's always lovely having you around, and I'll post up the previous links of the podcast episodes where she joined me on the Joomla Beat podcast too. All right, so let's play another message from our listeners, and this one's from Robert.
Congratulations on the 100th episode of the Joomla Beat podcast, Pete and Martina. Looking back at episode 1 from January 2013 on the topic, Has Joomla Lost Its Popularity? Your podcasts have certainly helped to ensure that hasn't happened. Thanks once again.
Well, I like to think that I've kept... No, I didn't help Joomla keep its popularity. It was the people, it's the community. I had nothing to do with that.
You're contributing to its popularity.
Maybe in a small portion of some way. I don't know. But yeah, that was a bit of a controversial first episode that I ever put out. Has Joomla lost its popularity?
And what was the verdict of that podcast?
Well,
for all the people that haven't listened to the first one?
I think it was poorly recorded and poorly organised and sounded like I scripted the whole thing. That's probably from an objective view, but subjectively, I think it's still very strong, in my opinion. It's still very popular. The people that love it still love it.
Raving
still
fans,
use it.
and
Yes.
it still has a lot to give.
Exactly, and I've noticed more and more people starting to use it over the years as well. So you see new members pop up here and there and join the community and never leave. All right, we got one more message from a listener here.
Hello, fellow Joomlers. Hi, Peter, and congratulations for the 100th episode so far. We here at Joomla love listening to your podcast. It's like TV time for kids. So we look forward to the next 100 episodes.
TV time for kids. How cool is that?
That is pretty cool. I love that. That should be your new slogan. Joomla Beat Podcast, TV time for kids. Or it's like
awesome.
TV time for kids.
It's like TV time for kids, but for adults. And that was the team from RS Joomla, so thank you so much for putting out that message. And thank you everyone actually for putting messages into SpeakPipe and joining me and Martina on the 100th episode of the Journal Beat podcast.
Where are the
Cemented
fireworks?
history. Cue sound effect. There we go. Awesome. But let's wrap things up. This has been a fantastic and a very long podcast episode, and hopefully everyone got some cool, entertaining insights from everyone, and a look into the future, into the past of Joomla in general, and how everyone's used it.
What an amazing milestone.
Yeah, and hopefully we can keep this up and keep the podcast going.
And thanks everybody for contributing to the podcast too.
Yeah, and if you haven't left a rating or review, is it too much to ask now? But
do they want more fireworks?
Cue the fireworks. If you want more fireworks, if you want to keep this podcast going to the next 100, you know what you need to do. You need to leave us a rating or review on the iTunes store. Tell your friends. Leave a big love heart thing on the Spreaker thing. What else is there?
Just share the love.
Share the love. Share the podcast. Tell all your friends. And we'll do our best to keep it going with more jam-packed interviews and hints and tips and extension reviews. What else, Martina?
I don't know. Just tell us what you want to hear or what you're interested in.
Leave a comment. You know where the show notes are. joomla.be.at. And until next time, everyone.
Keep your website safe and secure.
Yep, and keep them backed up. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Joomla Beat podcast, bringing together the community of designers, developers, fans, and users from around the globe. Joomla.be.at